Well, hello everyone. I'm Todd Bookspan, and on behalf of Win by Noon, Trust Engine, First Home IQ, we're super excited to have you at the eighth annual SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA. And it's been a great journey since Dave and I started this back in 2017, and it's been probably the funnest event that we get to do every year. And we're just really excited the fact that we've got not only six amazing volunteers that are going to some of the best of the mortgage industry to converse, but also we're excited for our co-host, Mr. Phil Jones. But as always, I get to kick it off this time, but I've got my right hand good friend and mentor, Mr. Dave Savage. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I am super pumped.
Yeah, it is great to be here and finally get this going after months of planning.
No doubt. Well, I think we've got the room pretty full. Why don't you kind of set the table and then I'll jump in, share my thoughts, and then let's get the special guest and the leader of this workshop on, Phil
I
Jones.
feel like Phil M. Jones does not need an introduction in the mortgage industry any longer. But I want to make sure that those of you who are of the few who don't actually know who Phil is and why we're so excited to have him here as our co-host for the second straight year is I really think he's one of the, if not the thought leader right now in real estate and mortgage with regards to conversations that are really critical in our industry right now. And he is um, an amazing human, a really great mentor, inspiration, but he's really known as an author. He wrote a book called Exactly What to Say. There's also Exactly What to Say for real estate agents. I think a lot of you already own it. If you don't own it, I would recommend you buy it and buy the real estate agent version. We'll talk more about that later. But ultimately, it's really unique. He sold almost 3 million copies of the book. Last count I had, maybe he's over that by now. But what makes it really special to me is the fact that the average person who buys a book on Audible listens to it 0.3, not even a third of the way through before they quit. And the average person who has bought the Exactly What to Say Audible has listened to it almost 8 times, and making it the number one listened to nonfiction Audible in the world. And I think that really where Phil's genius comes in is when he's got the ability to do what we're going to do here today, to workshop conversations that matter. So welcome, Phil. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I am fantastic, Todd. So I'm gonna just spotlight myself if that hasn't happened already. I don't know who's doing the spotlight or moving the spotlight, but
Hey,
it's all here.
hey, real quick before we have Phil take over, I do want to share a frame to frame today's call, Todd, if you don't mind. Uh, am I am I spotlighted still?
Looks like it to me.
Okay, perfect. So guys, this is a first day of a new shift in the market. So on Saturday, the NAR settlement took place, which is a very big deal for the real estate industry. We started to see interest rates come down. So guys, it's a new market shift, and here's what's important. It's important. Like there's going to be like my takeaway from Tom Ferry was a lot of people are going to win, but not everybody is going to win. The people that are going to win in this new market and gain market share the most are the people that are willing to learn new skills, experiment. So Todd and I have never done a Zoom event with 1,000 people live. This is the first time we've done that. We've never done Script-a-Palooza like this with Phil, but we're making an experiment. We're doing something different. We're taking some risk. And so I want to push everybody. This is a time for extreme masterminding, and this is a time for training mastermind, not just coming up to a mastermind so you can learn new ideas, make notes, but get ideas that you then train on. So I just wanted to set the frame around like new shift, new opportunity. If you didn't watch the interview I did with Tom Ferry, we'll put a link to that below. But not everybody's going to win. The people that take action and train are going to win. So my man, thank you so much for spending the time to do this, and I'll hand it off to you, Phil.
Thank you, Dave. It's good to be here. It kind of feels weird being invited back. It's like Ricky Gervais being invited to come back and do the Golden Globes, right? Do I just get to be meaner at people this time? Do I just get to be more abusive to the industry as a whole? And I decided the answer to that question is a definite no. I think what we're looking to do is to be different. Dave just laid up the fact that what we are is going through huge amounts of change in the real estate industry as a whole. A question I have for you here right now in this environment is, do people like change? Yes or no?
No.
All right. Like Diana's here, like, heck no, Todd's give me a big thumbs down. You guys have found the chat, which is awesome. We don't like change. And I'll prove it for a second. One of the reasons that I wanted to have everybody's cameras on that was able to do so is I was going to invite you to do something real quick. Can you all just fold your arms for me? No, not that way. Try it like the other way. Woo! Freaking weird, right? I'm looking around and Ryan's like, I like this. This feels kind of sexy. But like, that is one of the simplest of changes I can ask you to make. But understand this, that change at best is uncomfortable. So with the change that's happening in the industry, we thought that when we approached this year's SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA, we would change up the framework too. And less of a competition of who's got the best scripts and more of a collaboration of where are there rock stars inside the industry that are executing at a high level of performance that we can learn from. This isn't a competition, it's a collaboration. And what Dave and Todd have put together is a panel of some of the best of the best of the best, not people that talk about the industry, but are actually executing in the industry, getting high-level results day in, day out, week in, week out, with 6 giant big topics that are around it. For you to support them, what I'd love you to do is to listen. Be where your feet are at, be present, be in the moment. And that means if there are distractions around you, try and lose them. I like you to have your cameras on because then I know if you're watching, right? I can see if you're reading text messages. I can see if what you're doing is that you're looking out the window. I can see if you've got 17 browsers open. Be present because there's no better place in the world for you to be than here. And if there is a better place for you to be in the world than here, go be there all in. Go be in that all in or be here all in. And to join the conversation throughout, keep firing on the chat. If you've got questions you want to ping towards the presenters while they're sharing, then please do so in the chat. I'll look to be able to field those, collect them, lay them up to the experts that we have sharing. And following your conversation throughout. Dave, we've got one heck of a lineup. Are you going to lay these up one at a time, or do you want us just to get straight into it with everybody, or are you going to introduce first presenter?
Yeah, I'll introduce this first presenter, and Todd and I will take turns. And so this first presenter is no new person to the community. I've interviewed Jeremy over 100 times. He consistently is one of the top performing mortgage advisors in America. He is a producing leader. You know, he runs a very successful region. He distinguishes himself, you know, in a couple different ways. One, he's just he prospects consistently. He wins by noon consistently. I actually know he wins by about 7 a.m. because him and I have been accountability partners to make sure each of us are doing our sweaty walks in the morning and just starting the day right. And then he's a master advisor. So Jeremy is going to cover the topic of how to have client for life conversations that optimizes refis and purchases. Let's face it, we're moving into some refi opportunities, but every time we reach out to our past customer database or our database in whole, we want to optimize it. So let's welcome Jeremy to the stage. Let's spotlight Jeremy and Phil, and let's go.
Hey, what's happening? Super honored to be here. So, a few different things that I want to give you context for as I go into this, and I'm so looking forward to feedback always. Is, you know, the where I'm going to start with this conversation is going to be like, how do you bring this conversation up about the idea of client for life in the initial conversation with people? So at the very beginning, even before they've committed to working with you, et cetera. So that's the context of where I want to start with this. Is it's something that I do not 100% of the time because I mess up and forget when I'm rushing as well, but I do it way more than I don't, right? And whenever I do, I have way more predictable results and I build a different type of trust with clients. So whenever I am doing my initial, you know, call it initial lead call is what we call it here. You can call it interview, consult, but really my first appointment with a client, whether it's over phone, Zoom, et cetera. And we've already gone over, you know, the questions of budgeting and where are you trying to keep your monthly payments, all that stuff. And as we get towards the end and I ask them, you know, are there any other specific questions that I can answer for you while I have you today? Now, if they have a specific question, I will answer it, but I will ask again and again until they say, no, I don't have any more specific questions. And that's where this script starts around the client for life conversation. I say, great. So, you know, in my practice, I've learned that like everyone says that they want to have clients for life, but in our industry, no one really behaves that way. We're different in that sense. Like we really do want to build a client for life experience with you. And that comes down to a multiple different things over time after you close on the transaction. So let me ask you, how important is it to you to have a system in place that can lower your monthly payments systematically when the time is right, to make sure that cost is always going to be considered, to make sure that you are going to... Someone want to role play with me? I'll do it. You guys want to role play? Let's go. So I'll do that again, is that I explained to them, like, client for life starts after the transaction, right? Not actually right now. So how important is it to you to save money systematically from a monthly payment standpoint, learn how to accumulate wealth, and also to pay off your debt faster after the transaction is closed? So I asked that question, and usually they say, well, they all sound great, is usually the response that you get from that. And that just opens it up for me to be able to say, that's great, because we have a client for life program where we systematically are always going to be monitoring when it's time for you to refinance to either lower monthly payments or learn how to pay off your debt faster and pay off the loan much faster than you are right now to help you get debt free. We also are going to check in with you and do what are called annual reviews every single year, where we see how things are going in your life. Because client for life means we need to know, do you have the same job, occupation? Is money an issue right now? Do you have any unwanted credit card debt? Do you have any life events that are coming up with your kids? Or you're thinking about maybe moving into a bigger house or thinking about downsizing into a smaller home, relocation. These are all things that are a really important part of the plan. So our client for life system is free. We offer it to all of our clients. And if any of those things are important to you, let me know which one is the most important, and I can elaborate on it right now. So that's the general script that I use when I'm talking to a client or a lead upfront, just to introduce the idea of what a client for life program is.
Jeremy, what do people say to that, though, when you set it up that way around? When you're sharing with people that you have this client for life initiative, what feedback, what general comments, or even body language do you get from people?
Yeah, so usually what I get is a surprise. So someone who has already done real estate transactions before, they're like, wait, so like, is this something you do for everyone, or is it just for me? Like, that tends to be like they're a little uncertain, right? They're like, well, what does this really mean? Like, what is this service really? So, you know, I love that, because that's actually what I'm looking for, is I'm actually looking for what's my opportunity to go deeper in a certain area. So that's one, you will get that. Don't be thrown off by that if you use that script, is that you're inviting constructive conflict through questions. Right. And so they might say something like, here's something I get all the time. Well, what do you mean by systematically lowering my monthly payment? Right. Because that's one of the items that I listed. And I say, I'm so glad that you asked, right, is the response script. I'm so glad that you asked. So over time, interest rates are going to go down, and there's opportunities where you can refinance and save money monthly. Now, it doesn't always make sense to actually do it. So what we're always going to analyze with you and monitor is that when does it make sense to refinance? What is the actual savings? But really paying way more attention to the cost. So if you could save $200 a month for free, would that be interesting to you? And they always say, yes, that would be interesting, right? And I say, okay, well, what if I said I can save you $200 a month, but it cost you $10,000? Is that interesting to you? And they're like, no, that's not interesting to me. So I say, that's great. So that's exactly what we look for. So I'm giving them examples based on their responses, and just really teeing up the path I want them to walk down is to ask me these questions so I can educate them more on exactly how we do it, and that I'm always going to let them know what makes sense and what doesn't make sense for them personally.
There's so much to catch here on what Jeremy's sharing too, because one of the big things is he's just slowing down. So obviously when somebody's looking to close on a house, they're very short-sighted, right? Get me in, get me the keys, get me my loan. But what he's then doing is he's stretching the timeline that exists with the consumer to help them realize that there might be a longer-term view here.
Yep.
Jeremy, you open to some tweaks and refinements even to the language that you're putting out?
I have my pen and paper. I was waiting. I was like, give it to me, man. I got my pen and paper. I'm ready. I want to be better.
Tiniest of little changes is when we are saying things like we're going to be here with an annual review and a follow-up and we're going to check in, that language has you sounding like everybody else.
Yep.
I know you do it and you do it to a high standard, but even those labels of annual review and check-in and follow-up, they sound like what everybody else is saying. The fact that you do it to a great standard Doesn't mean they know you do it to a great standard till you do it. How do you set it up? Sometimes you might be asking questions is like, how likely are you going to be staying in this home for the next 30 years? And they're like, well, I don't know. And you can say, well, how likely are things going to change over this 30-year time period? They're going to say, well, pretty likely. You're going to say questions like, could it be possible that at some point in any 12-month period of time, your circumstances might change where either you'd like to be able to either pay off more of your loan or extract some of the equity from your home? Well, yeah, I guess I could. See, it's for those reasons why we support you for the lifetime of you being a homeowner and interested in real estate. That means that you're going to get an annual performance review of the equity in your home and what options are available to you. You're going to provide us a learning experience about what's changed both in your life and in the plans for your life so that we can support you over that time period. And that one thing that you'll learn about working with us that's different to almost every other loan originator on the planet is that there is a genuine commitment to be able to support you achieve your goals in the real estate industry. So as much as we're doing those annual reviews, as much as we're using technology to see what products are available to you to save money or pay off your loan quicker and easier, you can also reach me at any given point in time, same way you did through the closing process. That means that you've got my cell phone, you can text me, you've got my email, you can reach me that way. But no, if it's urgent, text me. If it's important, email me, and we'll set up an appointment. But you see how like you're just building an even bigger picture so they understand what's happening. We're not sounding the same as everybody else.
Hell yeah, that's badass, man. It's like creating a tsunami offshore 10 miles out rather than just a wave that's breaking on shore. That's badass.
Yeah.
And
hey, real quick, Phil, I want you to speak to this because nowadays with technology and the platform we have at Trust Engine, we're able to predict who's most likely to save money and when those opportunities come, who's most likely to want to move up and move down. How do you project that at the point of sale without like, I am monitoring you using data science and AI to predict, like, what is the way to describe that in the conversation that's not creepy?
Yeah, you're dead right here. I think you could tell people they're being spied on and they're scared about it. You can tell people that they're being protected and they're proud of it. Think of it this way, right? CCTV here is to check you get up to no good. CCTV is here to mean that if anybody was to come towards the property, that they'll be alerted and that you and your family are safe. Same action, complete different belief systems.
Yeah.
I think what I love about Jeremy's approach here is it's been channeled towards the fact that we are helping you with refis and we're helping you pay off your home earlier. What it's likely to be able to produce is people who are looking to sell and rebuy. It's actually going to find all of the life events that exist that somebody might need alternative financing than what they have right now. But I think what we can do is we can put this out up front. Jeremy, what you'd do in your shoes is how long have you been in this industry?
20 years.
See, 20 years ago, one of the ways that we would support our clients for life is that we would have to be actively monitoring the markets. We'd have to be regularly looking at every product that was available across all of the products that we needed. We'd have to deeply dive into them and understand their upfront fees and any additional transfer costs, etc., so we could accurately help our customers. The good news is today that we can do a lot of that with technology. We understand the events that would typically indicate. I'm utilizing technology to be a tech-enabled human. That means that these tools can actually be doing a lot of the research for you and for I. So you can get on with living your life, enjoying your home, thinking and dreaming. And we will be looking at the tools and the technology to give you a heads up when it might be a right time to move. Now, you know as well as I do, technology is not perfect. Also, there are things that happen inside your life that the technology could never know. So there's always going to be a human touch. But together, what we can do is we can help you become a homeowner of this home or any other home without ever paying a penny more than you need to by giving you access to the whole of market. That's just one of the other things that you get from choosing me to write your loan as opposed to going to the bank. So whatever we're looking at, turn bad news into good news.
Yeah.
And you can bring it up. Like I was reviewing your circumstances, I put it through some of the tools that we had, and what it triggered was this, and this.
Right.
They're like, man, thank you. Thank you for watching the back door and the side door for me.
That's incredible. I want to point out something to everyone that I wrote down. I mean, I couldn't write fast. I wrote a whole page while he was talking, but human technology, that that's going to be a new banner for me, like human technology, not humans using tech, but human technology. That was my big takeaway from everything outside of your brilliance and reformatting way I could be more influential. But like the human part of it was the thing that kept jumping out to me, that you brought up multiple times. So thank you. Totally badass. And I appreciate you guys letting me share today.
Yeah, well,
Jeremy, before we just bounce it to the next, and Dave, I'll ping it back to you in a second, is just tell me why this matters. Why should we be setting things up this way around? Why should we be considering that a client for life is a good idea and really meaning it?
Yeah, well, the client for life is a great idea, not really for me, but for them. At the end of the day, people don't know what they don't know. They don't know when it's a good time to look at maybe moving up. They usually wait until there's something catastrophic that happens and then they need their help. So I found that like by setting up a client for life system in advance where we are systematically evaluating, do they have needs from an equity standpoint? Do they have needs from a pay down standpoint? That we can actually help them identify what they don't know. And people just don't know. They have blind spots. So I had very poor experience early on in my first 10 years of the career with just bad advisors in my life. And I always got really, really bad advice, and it had a significant impact on me. So that's why it's so important to me, is that I want to make sure that good people get great advice, so that they don't have to go through all the pain that I had to understand what monitoring your finances look like on a monthly basis, annual basis, and making sure that you're set up for wherever your life is today, not where it was 2 years ago.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Dave, I'm going to get it back over to you to wrap this up with Jeremy. But while Dave is sharing what's happened there and what's happening next, all of you that are here that are listening in, that have enjoyed what Jeremy shared, light up the chat and tell us what you're going to do. What are you going to act upon? What might you change? What are you going to do differently as a result of some of those insights? So Dave, back to you, my friend.
yeah, I've interviewed Jeremy a lot of times, and he said with a lot of passion that if you're not doing refis, if you're not reaching out to your clients for life, or you're reaching out for your clients, you are not a client for life loan officer. I would just, I want to, before we leave Jeremy and come back, I'll come back on and just share some strategy on how to do that. But I'd love for the two of you to talk a little bit about that, because there's so many loan officers that are out chasing the next realtor, chasing the next deal, but they are not making the calls when there's an opportunity. Could the two of you just talk about that real quick? And Jeremy, any leadership you want to bring to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you summarized it pretty good for me. My philosophy on this is that last year the market was really, really tough. But guess what? A lot of people needed home equity lines of credit. Well, also, guess what? In mortgages, we make no money on home equity lines of credit. So most people are referring those out, right? Like the credit unions, and just, oh, yeah, here, go call this place. And I decided just to do every single home equity line of credit that anyone came to me with a need for. And I ended up doing 83 of them, like in a year. And the reason why is that I just never want to say something and tell someone that I'm going to be there for them with their needs and what they are. And then as soon as they raise their hand and have a need, I'm like, oh, no, that one doesn't work for me. Like, so that, like, for me, that's really what the genesis of that was like, hey, if I say client for life, like I really mean it. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm going to make $8 or if I'm going to make $8,000. Like, what matters is that I'm doing what I said. I'm helping them. I'm serving them. I'm setting them up. And ultimately what that does is that it does make you more referable. It does, build way more trust with the client. And you're going to be able to help them again. Like, there's always an again. If I could leave you with anything, like in SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA, is that there's always an again. No one needs you just once unless they're calling you for a payoff to pay off their house. Like, that's the only time they might need you just once. They always need you time and time and time again.
Such a good point. Such a good point. And I think everything that we're looking at here is to remember that one of your ultimate values that doesn't get talked about enough is convenience. That's what consumers value more than anything else in almost any given area, is how convenient are you to do business with? It's the same reason that I will overpay for food because I've plugged into the Uber Eats app. Yeah. It's the same reason that I will just hit reorder on Amazon because it's the most convenient. It's the same reason that I'll always book a flight with Delta because they make it more convenient for me. What are you doing to make it more convenient? And if you're not adding this human layer of convenience with a never-ending story, that means they don't have to explain themselves to somebody else again and again and again, then what you might do is you might lose to a more convenient option. They might refi with the bank because it's more convenient. Like I just did a $50,000 currency exchange today using my bank because it was easier, even though it cost me $300 to $400 more than it could have done going through an alternative option because it was convenient. The greatest risk that you could have to sabotage or lose your business right now is somebody is more convenient because you haven't been showing up with enough emotional intelligence about the person and you haven't made it easy for them to be able to do business with you again and again and again. Be more convenient.
Love it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and be at the right place at the right time. And Phil, I will let you, however you want to wrap this up. I have a few ideas to share. But that was such a good session. Hope everybody dug it. Remember, use the little reactions. Give Jeremy a reaction, whatever comes to mind. So what are your thoughts at this
point?
What
I love the way that this is playing out today, Dave, as well is, and you're all seeing it, is in the real world, nothing goes like a perfect script, right? You could have the perfect script. The other person doesn't know their lines. The whole thing falls over. What we have here is a messy car crash of a collaborative set of conversations around how we can level up our performance when working with real clients. So there are situations where we're going to talk over each other. There are situations where it isn't going to go perfectly according to plan. Guess what? Same is true in the real world. So I think seeing how this evolves, catch that as a through line, seeing how we collaborate and build on ideas in real time is just like the real world here too. So Dave, I think what we should do is move forward from here, set up our second presenter who's going to be building on the great foundations that Jeremy laid down.
Well, before I do that, I want to make sure everybody knows the type of technology, and I love that, human technology that's available to mortgage advisors. And Todd, you be ready to bring on the next guest after I show the latest and greatest human technology. So I want you to think about this, where a mortgage professional has AI. Your database is being monitored for eligibility, who qualifies, who's most likely to transact right now, and then, as Phil said, you got to love it when technology is not working the way you want it to, and pull it up. All right.
Anticipation, Dave, makes it even better.
I know. Are you seeing my screen yet?
It says you've started your screen sharing, but Zoom is a little slow today, apparently.
All right, one more thing. And then if I have to, we will come on to the next speaker, and then I will do this again later in the show. All right, one more try. There we go. So imagine you've got the machine, human technology, monitoring your database for eligibility and propensity. And the minute, we're going to start seeing rate and term opportunities. You're going to see move up. This household became eligible for a move up with a high propensity to move up. This household has a credit improvement opportunity, a HELOC opportunity, a cash out. But let's just click on the refi opportunity, because we're going to see more and more of those. And you've got coaching. Every screen, click to email, click to text, click to call. It's got scripts. So exactly what to say when you call, exactly what to say when you text. Super easy, quickly to click the text button, copy and paste. Now, I think Phil would say, let's edit that. Let's tailor that a little bit, but super easy to text, call. Integrates with MortgageCoach so that you've got a customer experience that is exactly what that customer needs. And then all the data you need on that customer to have the highest value, highest quality conversation, so that you're able to give them advice and help and optimize saving people money. And one of the things we do here is we're optimizing for financial freedom. We're looking for ways for them to save money so they can achieve financial freedom with homeownership faster. And then we're optimizing for both the loan officer and the lender. So if anybody wants to get a demo of that app, we'll put a link down below. There's an interactive web page that you can play with. Now, it is an enterprise solution. So, we need to talk to management and leadership. It's not something that can be rolled out to individual loan officers, but we'll put a link below to that. So Wanted to make sure I shared that real quick, though.
I think it's such an intuitive tool. And like many of these things, if you use them, they're amazing. And if you don't use them, then you're a fool. Like, this is a wonderful tool that would give you access to insights. What I love, though, about your solution, Dave, where you have the ability to copy a script and translate it across, is you know what you've sent somebody. Unlike some tools that will just auto send something that you're not aware of, and then you find somebody replying to something that looks like completely out of tone. But just take a beat and remember that the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it. Read it in real time and see what human edits you can make to it. And if you're looking for replies to those text messages, make sure they always finish with a question mark. If they finish with a question mark, chances are you'll get stronger replies.
Yeah, great point.
Well, I don't know how, it's always, Jeremy was our closer last year. And so to kick off with you, Jeremy, this year was amazing. And one of the things that I want y'all to think about is just the presence that Jeremy has. It's, y'all think he's a great script person. He is. You all know he's a great human. He is, but he's very calming when he's talking to clients. And I would just kind of encourage you all. I always am guilty of getting excited when I'm getting ready to talk. I speed up my talk. I talk really fast, and Jeremy reminds me just to slow down and be present. And I don't want to gloss over the thing that he said. I saw him say it on stage earlier this year, and it hit me like a blinding flash of the obvious. And you heard him say it, is he said, "Hey, I didn't just say I was going to be your client, take care of you as your client for life when I was making money. I'm going to do it all the time." And the irony is that he's going to end up winning in the long haul because we all know it. Unfortunately, those 83 people who got HELOCs aren't going to be paying those off anytime soon like they thought last year. And so he's going to have 83, maybe only 82, but let's just call it 80 plus debt consolidation refinances as a result, where the rest of us potentially who referred those out are losing those to that bank or credit union in the future that you did that. So Jeremy, I really appreciate your leadership on it. And you just crushed it as always, my friend. All right. So, next up, again, another loan officer who almost doesn't need an introduction is Denise Donahue, the mortgage nerd. She does an amazing job. And I'm excited that she's here at this stage because it's thanks to her and her identical twin, the nerd, no, the bird, you're the nerd, that I got to sit in a certification for exactly what to say with the two of you and Phil in New York, and really what's led me deeper down the path and into this great relationship that I have with Phil. So I don't really know that there's much else I need to say about you other than that. So take it away, Denise and Phil.
Thank you. All right. Well, I actually been watching this Netflix series. It's called The Receiver. And I learned that the gritty dance, I don't know if y'all have seen it. And the guy who does the gritty does this. So I now have a new Zoom signal. So if you guys want to get nerdy with me, I want you to type in the number 8. That's like the nerd glasses, but sideways. So I want to get nerdy with y'all today. Let's see the 8s. And this is me doing the gritty. Anyways, so when Dave and Todd told me about SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA and the new format about this being more of a mastermind style, I fell in love with it because I think sometimes with these types of conferences or webinars that we go to, we miss the how piece. Like we learn a lot of cool things, but we don't really know how to systematize it and put it together in the real world. And so when they told me that this year, 2024, the nerd has to bring the most impactful topic, I thought, well, let me ask my audience. Let me ask the Nerd Academy and people on my social media, what do you guys need more of? And all of you guys almost said how to get business in the now. And so when we think about it, there are activities that we can do that generate business now for us. And there's activities that we can do, but it's more of that long-term strategy of in the later. So I want to ask you guys right now in the chat, if you need business right now, what is like the number 1 or number 2 thing that you want to do or that you should be doing to get business in the now? Like, what would you say just off the top of your mind? What would you say? Database, pick up the phone, calling, calls. Holy smokes, talk to more people. Okay, wow, I cannot keep up with all that. Okay, so here's what's really cool. When I ask this question, almost always people say making more connections is kind of how I would summarize it, whether it's calling or DMs or emailing. And so then I ask them, if we know that, How many of you are doing that right now? And if I was to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being maximum effort, are you putting forth level 10 maximum effort every day on that one single activity that we know will move the needle the most for the now business? What level are you at? 10 being you left it all in the field, you're giving it all you got every day for now business. Okay. Y'all can see in this chat that there's a lot of numbers below 8. There's numbers 5 or below. And I read this morning. Dave knows I do audios with him when I'm walking. I read this and I wanted to share this with you guys because I think it's really relevant to most of us. Well, there's a statistic that said 60% of loan originators are serving one family or less every month. That's 12 families a year. I would imagine that's not enough income or impact that either of you guys want to make, but yet we're still not doing a level 10 maximum effort. I'm walking you through this, okay? So this is what I took notes on this morning in my walk. These are the words that was said from the guy. Some of us are in a state of delusion or delusional. And if you are here, you won't be able to get the outcomes right because the premise you are operating out of is not a truth. And until we get real with ourselves, that we might not need 100 more scripts and 100 more tools and 100 more shiny balls. We might just need to get really real with the effort that we're putting in every single day for now business to move the needle. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you guys who were honest and vulnerable and put your numbers out there, because I think that that's truly where the work begins. With that said, because the number one activity that we can do for now business is more conversations, more connections, more calls, I want to share with you my exact strategy that I'm using, that I've systematized to make sure that every day I leave it all on the field and I hit my 60 minutes of a power hour every single day. And I know what I'm doing and I know who I'm calling and I know what I'm going to say. And I'll tell you the trick of it a little bit towards the end, but what I want to do is share my screen. So y'all take notes. Y'all know nerd style is very technical. I want you guys to walk away and be able to implement something like right away. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you guys what this looks like. I don't want to lose y'all's faces. There we go. Y'all good? Y'all can see me? Give me an 8. Can y'all see me? The screen. Okay, good.
We see your email open. That's what you're looking for?
Yes, yes. All right, so systematizing. The first thing we're going to talk about is how to systematize this. The second thing we're going to talk about is how to prepare for it. This is not super fancy. We just discovered that really to move the needle, it just takes effort and being intention, right? So here's what I want you guys to start doing. In my inbox looks crazy. I have a folder that's called Realtor Power Hour. Y'all see that? And then subfolders beneath it are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're numbered because I couldn't put Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday because Outlook wants to put it in alphabetical order. So I intentionally labeled it 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 means Monday. 2 means Tuesday. Y'all get the point, right? So my calendar, my schedule looks like on Mondays, I'm going to click on my number 1. And anytime that there was an offer that was sent in, or if an agent made an offer, I've trained them to copy me on the offer. I call the agent. Anytime there's an offer that's made or I receive a contract, I drag the email into that Monday folder. Denise, what if you get a contract on Thursday? It goes in the Monday folder. This is how I automate and protect my time so that my 60 minutes are super intentional, okay? Tuesdays are my status update calls. Status update calls means for clients who are under contract, I call the client, give them an update on their file. I call the buyer's agent and I call the listing agent. When you get to the point where you have too much production that you can't make all those phone calls, just call me. We'll talk about how to scale and grow from there, okay? But Tuesdays are my status update calls. So when I get my emails from my CRM that says the appraisal's been ordered, the appraisal's been received, whatever, guess what? I drag it into my Tuesday folder. Wednesdays, these are my realtor drip follow-ups. This is not fancy language. I'm sure Phil's going to tell me there's a better way to say drip and follow-up, but okay, this is my internal self-talk, so don't judge. Built into my CRM. So I do use a CRM to systematize a lot of my stuff. I started out with an Excel spreadsheet, then went to Smartsheet. I don't care if you use a napkin to start with. The point is to build the habit. I've now progressed to this stage, which means a CRM. So what happens is if I meet an agent at a open house, or if I do a deal with a listing agent and I tag them into a certain campaign so that I get reminders so that I don't forget that, hey, so if I'm in here, 6-week follow-up, 4-week follow-up, 2-week follow-up, I have programmed that it sends me an email that says, hey, it's been 2 weeks. Do I need to follow up with them? I can dismiss the email or not, but that email goes into my inbox. I drag it into that folder. Maybe I send them a Facebook message. Maybe I send them a text message. Maybe I invite them to a happy hour. The method that I'm using has to, I believe, be different each time because not everybody wants a video text message from you. If somebody sends me a video text message that is not Dave Savage, there's a very good chance I won't watch it. If you leave me a voicemail, almost 100% chance that I won't listen to it. So you have to change up the method to see what flavor that person likes, right? So I use different methods and then I make notes in my system so that I start to feel, man, they're ghosting me on every method except for the DM method. So on this person, I'm going to set a reminder that says this person opens DMs. They don't open text messages. Okay. Isn't this a more intentional way to learn how to communicate with someone and get responses from someone? Now, if you want to know what to say, we're going to go into a little bit of detail about that. Go get certified with Phil Jones. Go buy his book. He's got a great thing called the OFC. You got to practice it to get really good at it. But my Thursdays right now are my HomeBot emails. So some of you guys have HomeBot. It's going to soon be my sales boomerang updates. This is one of those tech tools that are super underused. You know, tech can be fantastic if you use it right. And for those of you who have a HomeBot type or sales boomerang, you get these updates that says, hey, there are people in your database that are showing symptoms of wanting to sell. Most of us just delete that email because we don't have time to make the calls. But all of us just said, that's the number one activity we need to be doing, but we don't know who to call. Well, you do know who to call. You just don't have a systematized way and an identified way to make the calls. So wouldn't a agent like to know a client that we helped in the past together who's showing symptoms of wanting to sell? How cool would it be if you were the loan originator and said, hey, Phil, hey, this is Denise. You and I work together on 123 Banana Street. And I wanted to reach out to you because we utilize AI technology and we got some symptoms that said that John Smith, that he might be thinking of selling. Have you spoken to him at all recently? No, I haven't.
Or when was the last time that you spoke to John?
Right. When was the last time you know what I mean? And I mean, I've got text messages, proofs of like them being so stoked of the fact that I had no idea. And do you think right now with all this NAR stuff, do you think agents want more listings or want more buyers?
A little bit of both, right? They want both.
They want both. They love listings. They've always loved listings. So the last thing I'll follow up with is on my Friday email. I call it the wealth story and my hit list prep. This is probably the single missed ingredient in making all of this work. Because you'll say, all right, I know I need to make more connections. I don't know who to call or when to call or what to say. Okay, now I'm just going to copy Denise's schedule. This is like what happens when you leave conferences is, well, Denise is, serving 40 families a month. So if she's doing it, it must work for me. So I'm just going to follow the schedule. And then next week you start doing it and you're like, wait a minute. You didn't prep the week. If you haven't been in business for 15 years, you might not have people in your Thursday category, enough people to fill up that 60 minutes of an hour slot of contacts, because maybe you don't have enough people in your database to call. So then what are you going to do? Well, a great strategy that Deborah Berg mentioned was the Redfin strategy of go on to Redfin and look to see in your local area who has had recent price drops on their listings. And so you can reach out as a loan originator, ask them about their home, ask them if they think that potentially, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what I love about this though, Denise, like whatever way you look at it, is you're just simplifying and putting constraints around time locks, right? So you've got the categories that work specifically for you, but if it was a newer agent that doesn't have a book of business, is you could say, well, these are open house follow-ups, these are friends and family, and on Wednesdays, what we're doing is that we are going to technology and seeing what has been dropped, etc. Is the action I'd be taking right now if I was everybody listening in, is to say, well, what are all the buckets? What are all the buckets of continuous conversations that you need to be having with people? Do a list of all the buckets and then say, well, how do I spread that through a Monday to Friday? How do I spread that from a Monday to Sunday? How do I put that within my working hours? And what I love about the simplicity of this is just in your email. This isn't some clever CRM, etc. And I see some people in the chat here that are saying things like, does that mean that you have to wait a week to contact somebody? You can always queue jump it, right? You can always bring it forward if there's something that's burning and urgent. What I love about the system, though, is you don't forget. Like, you don't forget people, right? They're always there. They're the latest they are 7 days away without another thoughtful point of contact or a thoughtful action. Am I reading that right?
Absolutely. And, we have different loan officers within our division that are at the beginner stage. We've got some that just started in their business this year. And so to Phil's point, he's spot on. You might not have a Monday that's filled with offers and contracts. And so how do you fill that time? Well, we do open house crashing. And so if that bucket's not there for you, then go crash open houses, meet agents, get their business card, put them in your Monday every follow-up and make those your categories. And so the most important thing, because it's funny, whenever I coach this with loan officers and they start it, and I encourage all of you guys, honestly, if your business isn't where it is where you want it to be right now, and you need business for the now, and you answered 10, 9 or less when I asked you that question, the number one thing that you should do when you get off this call is identify your buckets. And don't skip your Friday wealth story prep list, because if you don't have it systematized, then I know one of you guys asked, please explain the Redfin strategy. The Redfin strategy is if you see a price reduction, you pull up your area, go to Redfin, pull up the city that you're in, see what listing agent has had recent price reductions, call them, ask them, hey, are you still the agent for 123 Banana Street? I saw that there was a recent 10,000 price drop. Can you tell me a little bit about the home, about the seller? And I'm just asking them questions. At the end of the day, I want to offer them a 2-1 buy down strategy that says, well, this may or may not be for you, but would it help to market the house with a 4.99 interest rate? And you put a TCA and a lender launchpad, lender marketing platform. I know I'm throwing a bunch of acronyms at you guys. Hopefully you guys know what those are because you watch the Mortgage Coach channel, but you've got something that you're offering of value to that agent. You're not a loan officer calling them saying, this is how every call goes. Hey, my
Denise,
name
the
is...
magic here is constraints. You're putting constraints around things that then force your creativity, right? It's just saying like, not I can call anybody and everybody, which actually means that most of you call nobody, right? Give me a yes, no on that, right? How many days are there that you can call anybody and everybody? The world is your oyster, so you procrastinate for 9 hours and call nobody. What Denise is doing here is she's putting a framework around this that says, be as creative as you can in this tiny bucket here, and then as creative as you can in this tiny bucket here. And what you learn is that actually creativity works better with constraints. You're forcing these constraints. And it's funny while you're sat here as well, like this is my daily planner that I drew out for years and then produced. This forces me to have 18 conversations a day in a proactive way. All I do is I sit here and I say, who are the people I need to be asking more questions of? And I add 5 names. I say, what are the conversations I need to revisit in order to be able to progress? I add 2 names. Where you have relationships that contain unrealized opportunities, I add 2 names. And what opportunities are awaiting my input to agree next action? I add 5 names. So every day I have 18 proactive conversations that are forced by this. And then I review my day and I get planned for tomorrow. And then I tear it off and I go again. Like every day I use a single sheet of paper. And if anyone wants to see that piece of paper in their own light, is come to my Instagram and just DM me the word planner, and you'll see how that works there too. But all of this is simple. This isn't like there's this like evangelical wonder, AI induced, like how do you automate all of these communications? The system is repeatable. The system that Denise is sharing is something that she can bring her best self to, because she's not getting snagged up in tech. What you're doing is you're just saying, I know what I do on Monday. I know what I do on Tuesday. I know what I do on Wednesday. I know what I do on Thursday. I know what I do on Friday. I know what I do on Monday. I know what I do on Tuesday. I know what I do on Wednesday. I know what I do on Thursday. I know what I do on Friday.
Sexy,
And
isn't
it's so
it?
easy. But it is, right? And the basics to a high standard consistently drive results. We come to these webinars sometimes and be like, well, where's the silver bullet? Where's the fast track? Where's the easy button? And anybody I've ever met who's exceptional at anything, they do the basics well on repeat. They do the basics well on repeat. And they find ways to habitualize that. And you've just modeled excellence there, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think going back to how I started this conversation is, if we all know that doing a 60-minute power hour of making phone calls, I'm specifically talking about real estate agents because Jeremy already told you how to kill it with clients. There's a whole other system for that, but specifically for your partners, committing to 60 minutes a day, that's less than 4% of your day, to doing activity in the now that's going to generate the most results. I think the bigger question you need to ask yourself is, why are you avoiding doing the number one activity? And that's where you have to get really real with yourself, which is where we started. Is some of us are still in a state of, I don't like the word delusion, but we're in this world that we're doing everything that we can. But the truth is we're avoiding the hard thing, the mundane thing, because maybe we're working on a really cute social media reel, and we're going to spend 3 hours putting together a social media reel, when that's later business. That's like brand recognition, and that's not going to get you paid tomorrow or make an impact tomorrow, right? So why are you avoiding? You guys all told me before I gave you my plan, so you already know you're not doing it. This number 2 thing I would do from this is get real with, why are you avoiding it? And when you can get to that place, and then you make the commitment that you want to be great, and so you're going to commit to doing whatever your plan looks like. It doesn't have to be my plan. Go get Phil's planner and map it out on his planner. Like I said, I just want it systematized, and I want you to do it every day. And if you do it every day, over and over and over and over and over and over, you're going to get better and better and better and better and better. And you're going to be a better human than you were a year ago, guaranteed. But get real with yourself on why you're not doing it.
Mm-hmm. And don't let perfection stay in the way of performance, right? Is what I see here is people asking questions in the chat, like, what's the best time of day to call? Well, currently you're calling nobody. So any time of day is better than that. I mean, call at 3 a.m, you'll get better results than calling nobody. But the point would be is nobody's going to give you a right answer to that question. I get asked that question all the time. What's the best time to call? Well, different human dynamics, different geographic locations, different like buyer personas, etc. Like if you're working with people who are retired and they're 65 in the middle of the country that have all the time in the world, they might love a phone call at 7:15 a.m. in the morning that takes them through till noon. But then if you're working with working individuals, like there's different requirements. You might find 8:15 p.m. at night is perfect and try and call a midday, and then you've got no chance. But it's different everywhere, and you've got to learn it all the hard way.
Yeah, it's different, and I'm going to keep it real with you guys. There's days that I miss. There's days where I set out where I'm going to make a call. I'm going to make my power hour calls at 9 a.m. I'm human just like you guys, and there's a fire that comes through. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that you just throw the day away? Does that mean that because you were supposed to do it at 9, you just don't do it that day, and I'll just do it tomorrow? And well, I hope that you try to put max effort in that day. So maybe it's not 9 a.m. and maybe you moved it to 4 p.m. Or maybe you've got a double dip on the next day, because guess what? Everything's filed for you there. So I'm just telling you, I am averaging about 35 families a month in production. And I would love to tell you guys that I make my calls every day on the same time. And that's no, it's just the fact that if I miss a day, I push it to the end or I push it to the next day, because I know that it is the single most important activity that I can do. And as I do it, I get better. And so it's a non-negotiable for me, period.
I think the key
we're elegantly running 20 minutes behind where we plan to be at this stage of our time together. But there is one question that's coming up in the chat on repeat that I feel like Dave's going to be lit up with complaint after complaint. Is like, can you explain this Friday wealth call succinctly so that people like got it? Because I think we've got some confusion here.
Yes. So my Friday is at the end of the week. I'm in this game because I want to spread awareness of financial literacy in our communities and in our country. So something that's really important to me at the end of every week is that I evaluate what is the single biggest wealth story that I can share to the masses, whether it was helping a first-time home buyer and showing a rent versus own, or maybe it was that someone came to me asking for a refinance and I told them, no, it's not time to refinance. So I do not leave my week without sharing to the masses, which is a mass email. It's on my social media. Y'all all follow me at the Mortgage Nerd. If you don't, you better, or, no more of this with you guys. But every Friday, my non-negotiable is to share mass awareness of the wealth story to make a bigger impact within my country and my community. And then the hit list prep is, if I didn't get my number, just because you make calls or you make DMs, it doesn't mean you're making connections with that agent. Within my group, we measure the partner connections, meaning activity that's going back and forth. And so our formula for that, and then I'll wrap up, is if you want a certain number of fundings a month, right? So 5 fundings, 10 fundings, whatever it is, you should know your conversion numbers of how many credit pulls do you need every day and every week to reach your funding goal. If you don't know what it is, go do the math behind it. But everybody within our group knows every week how many credit pulls they need to get to reach their funding goal. So that means that you have to have 3 times the partner connections of your credit pull goal for the week. Example, if you need 10 credit pulls a week to get to your funding goal, you need to be having 30 partner connections a week to get to the credit pull goal, to get to your funding goal. We can't control the fundings. You can't control the market. You can't control who's going to be the president, but what you damn sure can control is your effort. So if you're hitting your partner conversations and you do it enough over and over and over, the credit pull goal will be hit, and then your funding goal will be hit. And if it doesn't hit, you need a coach like myself to help you. So that's all I'll say to that.
That was a master class in so much. There's so many things I could say, but I love the fact you start off with a simple plan, right? I mean, the bottom line is, if you're not crystal clear on what you have to do today, then guess what? You're probably going to get to the end of the day and you're not going to have done it. Number 2, as you said, well, you're not there worrying about your social media. That's because you and I both use your sister, Plug and Play SM, for our social media. So I'll have to give Deborah, who's here, a plug. And, it's just the whole idea of, making sure that you really are crystal clear on what you have to do to get there. I mean, the fact that you have a formula for credit pulls and realtor conversations. And I think that's just where most people, in my observation, come up short, is that they have a desire to do a certain number of loans at the end of the year. And Coach Bill Hart just pointed it out in the chat. It's leading indicators versus lagging indicators. And if you're not recording your activities and tracking your results, then you're just going to come up short every single time.
Great job, Denise. That was incredible. And I put a link. I did a incredible interview with Denise. It's been watched over 2,400 times, where she went into detail on weekly wealth calls. So that is down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, they'll put a link. All the important links we'll have in the show notes. So So guys, we are a little over 20 minutes over. So we're not going to shortchange any of the other speakers, but just a reminder to everyone, let's try to keep it. And for James Allen, sorry, man, you're the anchor man. And hopefully if you or Dan do need to leave, let Todd or I know via text and we'll move you up. Hopefully we'll be cool. Todd, before we bring on Mose, the next guest, I want to make sure people know about the workshop you're doing with Deborah on exactly what to say, because it's just like knowing what to say and actually training and building scripts around what to say are like two different things. Would you mind teeing that up for everybody real quick?
Well, I mentioned that I had the opportunity to sit in a room with 20 of us, led by Phil, with Denise and Deborah sitting across the table from me for 2 full days. And, one of the things I realized there was how understanding better what to say and when to say it, AKA exactly what to say, is such a critical part of the missing critical part for a lot of loan officers, myself included, not just in business, but also in life. And so one of the things that Deborah and I have been really fortunate to do is dig in deeper and become certified exactly what to say guides. And we've now run 3 mortgage and real estate specific exactly what to say certifications. And we've got one last one this year. We've got just a few spots left in it, but September 18th and 19th, or 17th and 18th. I'll have Deborah put the link in there. So since I'm forgetting the exact date, we're going to be sitting in Dallas, Texas. And I think it's just a great opportunity for anyone who's really looking for a way to go deeper in the work that Phil has put out there and go beyond the content that's in the book and go through a specific workbook over those 2 full days around other great industry leaders like yourself. We would love to have you there. If you have questions on it, you can always reach out to Deborah I on socials, probably the easiest way. But it's been, to me, just one of the funnest things that I've gotten to do is sit in a room for 2 full days with, a small number of people and really dig deep on Phil's work.
Yeah. And guys, you're going to hear me use the term training masterminds. Like, this is a mastermind session. You're going to learn new ideas. You're going to collaborate with multiple people and you're going to train. And that is what time it is in the market. A shift is here. It's all about training on these skills and strategies. So we're going to bring on Mose Gatling. I have interviewed her multiple times this year. She's a very active ambassador in the First Home IQ community. She's just a really special leader, and the language she uses, the words she uses, the phrases, the way she connects with first-time home buyers. And guys, we are in a market where we need first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers need housing. The wealth gap in America is who owns and who rents. No one knows this better than Mose. So I'm going to bring Mose on stage. I'm going to jump off stage, and I can't wait to hear this conversation between Mose and Phil Jones. Let's roll.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for hopping on and attending this mastermind. It's a testament to you wanting to grow your business and be at the top of your game. When it comes to first-time home buyers, I think a couple things come to light. Dave and I were talking about this the other day. About 39% of millennials own homes right now, which means we're going up to age 44. The first time buying age, because of the cost of homes and interest rates the last couple of years, has skyrocketed to 35 years old. So when we're talking about first time home buyers, we're not just talking 20 some odd year olds. We're not just talking $200,000, $300,000 homes. We're talking about people that are more, let's call them mature in their age and also their employment. So that means they have earnings there that perhaps they've delayed buying over the last couple of years while it was rough for themselves and us in the business. And now they're willing to come back out into the world and maybe consider it. But I really feel that language is tied to how we will connect with them going forward. And I do agree with what Phil had mentioned before, that be different right now. Do not sound like the rest of the competition that is out there, doing things perhaps the old way of talking to home buyers about their compelling argument as to why they should go forward with a home or a mortgage. A lot of that nomenclature is so old. We've all been saying it since like fair housing time about what are the reasons why you should own. So it's really changing your language around what it means to own a home or be a first-time buyer. So you're really connecting with them exactly where they're at right now, not you trying to take them into the realm of what you think is good for home buying, but really where they're at. So, and I think it's also going to establish your value right now. I know that's big. We're talking about post 8/17, which I almost feel like saying post real estate apocalypse here that everybody's been talking about, right? Let's call it what it is. That's how we've been talking about it, right? Post apocalyptic conversations around the real estate market. You're now having to really establish your value as a mortgage person, as a real estate person going forward to be able to earn that commission that you want to get ultimately from the client, along with helping them through the process. So my number one tip that I applied to my own business was to stop telling people to get pre-qualified. Yes, I said it. Let's change the narrative around what a qualification looks like, because I just talking and listening to everybody on this call already and looking at some of the names in this chat, we've all been around a little while. We're great at what we do, but how do you illustrate that to people without reading off all the little certifications you have, without giving your resume, without giving out your link tree and say, look at me, look what I do. And I don't do that to my clients. So I wanted my agents, my builder sales agents, my real estate agents, anyone that would refer a client to me to stop telling them to call me to get pre-qualified. I want them to call me to get a home buying assessment. I just changed the nomenclature, okay? Because I feel I do so much more than give a pre-qualification. And when you sense, or you're talking to a first-time buyer, a pre-qualification in their mind, if we want to dive into the psychology of the home buyer here, they're thinking that at the end of a pre-qualification, there's like a yes or a no. There is no in between. There's no guidance. There's no path to ownership. There's no hand holding or walking or that customer for life that Jeremy was talking about in the beginning. We've made the phrase of the first step of ownership be more transactional, right? And less connective when you talk about this human connection you need to have to get someone from the beginning to the end and what is really going to compel and move them forward with home buying. So stop saying the pre-qualification, use the home buying assessment, because literally by name, without you rattling off what you're going to do or what you're certified in walking through, or being a certified mortgage professional, that's great. But that is a certification you got, and it doesn't explain to the buyer about what this process is going to give them as far as a feeling and how they should be compelled and what their reasons are to be compelled to own in 2024 and 2025. And it'll allow real estate agents to really engage that person and how you have a team of professionals. Your team, your qualifications will allow you to be able to get them through that process of ownership, and not with a yes or no, but really to think and talk and plan out what those steps look like, okay? And my first step when I'm doing an assessment, I think this is where the money is, okay, for everybody. Whether you're a real estate agent or you're a mortgage loan officer, you got to start by collecting your clients' pain points. If you don't know the pain points, how can you walk them through a process? You're actually giving them ill advice. Of course, as a loan officer and as a mortgage person and a real estate person, you want them to buy the house. And of course, you want them to buy it now. Why? We all get paid now. But beside that, that's not going to move our buyers forward, okay? We know they're sitting on the bench when it comes to home ownership. The average age is 35. There's something that's been lost in the translation of home ownership. It doesn't mean to them now what it maybe meant to me at my age, as to, theoretically, I guess it was always, hey, you go to college, right? You meet your person, you buy a house, you have kids. No, there's 35-year-olds that have a couple foofy dogs. They have fur babies, right? They don't have the kids. They're not on the same trajectory as it used to be. So you really have to dive deep and figure out what their pain points are so you can serve those pain points, okay? And if you don't serve those pain points, you don't have a client, actually. And in those pain points are where the exact details of what's going to compel them on their own to have a passion for home ownership. Okay. And when you're taking those pain points, you're able to really plot out what their next steps are going to look like. So as you're walking them through this and collecting information from yourselves, you're like the hype man simultaneously, right? They're telling you all their pain, right? And they're telling you why they need to own and why they even came to you to start with. It is amazing details that you're really going to need to help this person through the process. Okay. You have to make a connection. And this is also what's going to stop them from going to your competitor or dropping dealing with you, because you've moved from transaction to connection. Okay. And after you have all these great pain points, then comes your plan. Everybody loves a great plan. Everybody wants to be empowered to have a plan and have things that are plotted out that allow them to see these steps coming true. So we're going to take those very pain points that they've already disclosed to you, and we're going to map out a plan around those pain points. We need to show them the solve. Okay. I like to call it that. We got to show them the solve. If you tell me, I don't know, you have 5 kids and the unit you have or wherever you're renting now has a stackable washer and dryer, or you just tell me, again, you didn't tell me you needed a house, but you told me you had a lot of kids and you told me where you live has a stackable washer and dryer. That's going to be on the top of my list. And I'm always going to talk about the time that you're saving washing clothes in a full-size washer and dryer. I'm not going to talk the transaction. I'm going to talk about how I'm going to change your life. Because to me, as a mom, I'm a mom of 5, actually. My oldest is 26 now. My youngest is 17. So I do far less laundry these days. But if you would have told me I would have gotten hours of my time back, it would have made such a compelling argument for me personally to want to move. Okay. We're not talking transaction. We're not talking size of house. We're not talking about just the bill. We know that there's such a jump right now from renting to owning, no matter where you're at in the United States. So how do you make the compelling argument that somebody should increase their payment by $1,000? That is not the sexy part of our jobs right now at all. So we have to find those things that lie in the pain of our clients to illustrate how we literally improve their lives overall by way of ownership. Again, it's not just the generational wealth. Yes, you can get generational wealth. And when you think about our country and how diverse it's becoming, some people, let's say their parents or their parents' parents, their grandparents, maybe they didn't have generational wealth. That doesn't even speak to them anyway. But again, that's one of those old nomenclatures that are attached to housing that we often just throw out there like word vomit, like, hey, you're going to get generational wealth. They don't have it so far, so they can't relate to it. This is where we're changing that language really to meet the client where they are and find the things that are important to them. And it's in the details of their lives that we're going to be able to do it. So this plan, when you're...
No, what I'm hearing here is a lot, right? There's a lot here. And I'm going to just try and slow it down so we can organize this in a way that people are catching much of this gold as well, right? Because what I'm catching here definitely is this idea of repositioning pre-approvals and more towards this home buying assessment. If you didn't catch the fact that how you label the call, then that's huge. But then everything else is about combining your service to the unique pain points, the unique challenges, the unique obstacles that exist in that. Yes. I'm trying to just join these dots up a little, and I want to quiz you a touch. Is how does it change the narrative between you and realtor partners when you ask them to consider inviting their clients to come to you for a home buying assessment rather than a pre-approval? What's actually happened in that narrative there between you and realtors? Let's start there.
Real estate agents are finding a higher conversion of people that are willing to come talk to me and take that next step in the process. Right now, in a real estate agent having to... Here in my market, they changed their contracts and buyer broker agreements on August 1, and they didn't require them here at all before. So we've been into this a little bit, but it's allowing them to engage that client a little bit more and illustrate, first of all and foremost, their services. And their services can't just let me have you go talk to my lender to get pre-qualified. Again, it's not sexy at all. It's not that
it's slowing the process down between the realtor and the client, and the real estate agent now is getting a stickier relationship with their client because of the fact that they're seeing this more combined service from you. Absolutely. And then when you speak to this client, you're not jumping straight into how much do you earn, how like affordability. You're not jumping straight into the nuance of let's do the math equation where the computer says that you're approved. Correct. You're looking at why they want to move. You're looking at all the motivational factors. You're not asking questions like what is your motivation for a move and what size house and what neighborhood you're looking for. You're actually quizzing towards the human and how they're going to live, not where they're going to live. The way in which they need to live, not the attributes of the home.
You've got it. You've got it. And when in doing so, I think I can find a lot of things that lie outside of our 1003, outside of the application that means so much more to them. Because our application doesn't ask them who lives with you now or who's currently on your lease. Because when I ask that, I am indirectly asking what possible co-signers may we have, because I know we're going to have a jump in payment. How do I mitigate that negative reaction later? By asking questions now that are connective and seeing more of a process of assessment and less of a transactional, let me just literally fill out the blanks on an application, right? I'm really stacking up that relationship up front. And then whether
but you're not saying it's about the relationship, you're showing, right? You're showing, you're caring, you're leading with love. Yes. You are putting people into a situation that they feel like that they are connected with somebody that isn't about them buying a house, but buying the next chapter of their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Different narrative on home buying and less transactional. When you say, hey, get pre-qualified, instant transaction button flips on in the person's head. They may go forward or they may just drop off and say, I am not ready for that. You get a lot of, I'm not ready for the pre-qualification part just yet. But what if we just load it down?
And what they think of you as well, right? The value they attach to the results you can help them achieve get minimized. They imagine you're in a call center wearing a Brittany microphone, punching some information into a computer to get a computer says yes, computer says no. And I love it there because Paula smiled because she's wearing her Brittany microphone at this very moment in time and realized that I may have been, even though I wasn't talking about her, is what I saw on the screen. But Mo, I'm going to throw you a challenge and I hope that you're up for it.
I'm always up for a challenge.
Pre-qualification and to get you, pre-approved, and you've got this home buying assessment.
Yes.
I can think of hundreds of people that wouldn't like to come to a home buying assessment because they think I've bought homes before, I have some level of experience, just need my rate, need the piece of paper that can support my offer.
Right.
So what I'd be inviting everybody to do right now, if this is a pro group of people and we're playing through this good idea and we're getting ready for 25, we're not saying what's working in 24, we're getting ready for next, is I would say, who are the 3 groups of buyers that you are best positioned to support? Is it first-time buyers, move-up buyers, investors? Is it second home buyers, first-time buyers, somebody looking to buy, a series of multifamilies? Like if you were to pick 3 groups, who would yours be, Mo?
I would say for me, well, it's crazy because I have some of both. I have some professional athletes that are clients, but I think I phrase it slightly different. But if I had to say more business, first-time home buyer.
See, what I'd be looking at is if you've got professional athletes,
yes,
you maybe relocating to the area or moving out of the area. You've got first-time home buyers that are looking to move from rent to buy, and you've got families that you've supported in the past that might be looking to move up. Would you write a different set of values to each of those different groups?
Absolutely. I always speak to your client. You have to speak and connect with that person on their level right where they are every single time. Do not use the same thing.
You could have a professional athlete's relocation assessment.
Totally.
You can have a first-time buyer's funding options assessment. You can have a move-up buyer's unique financial strategy assessment to allow them to understand their options. So by adding specificity for different groups, you build a 3-legged stool and you add new narratives back towards the real estate community that say, hey, you should speak to Mo. She specializes in helping move up buyers be able to access a variety of different financial tools that give them the freedom to sometimes buy before they've sold, to give them more options in their offer process. And she's very creative about ways that she can minimize the disruption that exists to your family in a move up scenario. Instead of trying to say, I've got one size fits all buying assessment, add specificity to different types of buying assessments. And when we are here on a call with nearly 1,000 people on it, what I'm hoping everybody's catching is that you could pick 3 very specific sharp edges that are unique to your market, your skill set, your expertise. And you're giving the real estate community a reason to recommend you. It's like, go to Ryan, because Ryan will do an assessment with you to help you understand all of blank about blank to help you achieve blank. You're giving them the narrative, not speak to my lender for pre-approval. So it's taking what you've done to a 10 and pushing it to an 11 and blowing the socks off everybody else. Does that make sense?
Agreed.
So the encouragement I'm giving everybody here is whatever we're doing that's working, how do you turn it up more? How do you keep pushing through it? Because just because it worked yesterday, then everybody else is going to then catch up to that. And before you know it, we've got the world that are doing a home buying assessment. And then we're in the same boat as we were with pre-approval.
Yes. Keep
right?
it fresh.
It just becomes the vanilla ice cream again.
Yes.
Because the change isn't there. So keep stretching, keep stretching. And yeah, Mo, I love this. It's all positioning value.
Thank you.
Dave just showed up again.
Yeah, no, words matter. Jose, I just can't thank you enough for coming in here, bringing your leadership, your ideas. Words matter. And guys, here's a message. The mortgage industry and the real estate industry together can put a massive dent into financial literacy in America. I mean, every time we run a credit report for someone, we can give a little bit of financial literacy to help them achieve homeownership and build wealth with real estate. Like governments aren't going to fix this thing. Schools need our help. And so I'm gonna play a quick video that has a few comments from some of the ambassadors who have already joined the First Home IQ mission. Mose is an incredible leader in this mission. So check this out.
First Home IQ has been a blessing in my life. For a long time, I wanted to get committed to a not-for-profit organization that was very close to the housing industry, that's run by really cool people that made an impact. And so I finally found it.
And I've noticed a complete lack of want for the next generation to want to buy homes. The truth of the matter is the number one way that wealth is built is through real estate, and we need to make sure that the next generation knows it.
And the education part doesn't happen for so many people early on in life. First Home IQ is on a mission to change the future generations on how they look at and implement money and home ownership.
If we really believe that homeownership is becoming less accessible, that there's so much confusion by misrepresented messages in the media, we've got to be louder than the media. And there's nothing better than having the content made for us, than using a quiz to start the conversation.
Well, one of the best ways to add value is our first home buyers seminars and educating our first home buyers on how to get into a home. And I love the fact that First Home IQ has the quiz that gets them intrigued, and then we can educate them and help them become homeowners.
First Home IQ. We need more ambassadors. We need people like you. It's time for us to give back. Our ability is our responsibility. So click the link below, take the quiz, and I'm going to drop the ambassador enrollment form as well for you. Meet me on the inside. Let's go.
Love it. So guys, there will be a link. The little ask is at least take the quiz and play the quiz forward. Share it to your kids. Share it to anyone that, you know, is renting. It'll help them. And then if you want to have the ultimate first-time homebuyer platform, like any age, you will be a leader. You will do more first-time homebuyer business. You will help realtors sell more first-time homebuyers by being a First Home IQ ambassador. So we'll put both links in chat. If you're watching the videos, links in chat.
You know, it's fun since we founded First Home IQ, right? It's a 401c3, so it's a great opportunity to have a different conversation with your real estate agents and your clients about the fact that you actually are out there promoting financial literacy for the youth of America. And, you know, when I was a full-time originator, what I always wanted to do was have kind of done for me classes on how to teach financial literacy, credit, all the things that really matter to help get someone going down the path of home ownership. And the fact that First Home IQ has it, and Kristen Messerly and the team has done just an amazing job of giving you the easy button. So I would, as Dave said, I would just really encourage you all to jump in and check it out.
All right, Phil, anything else you want to say to wrap that session up before Todd brings on our next guest?
Just to really re-echo the importance of getting crystal clear on the value that you provide to your customers. And the language around discovery calls, the language around labeling things differently is important, but it won't get you where you're looking to go. Because the level of specificity to be able to bring to all this, to people to understand the unique value you bring, is where the ones that are going to steal market share are going to come from. And showing your realtor partners that you can help them with specific issues is going to be a big part of the job. And here's a mistake that every real estate agent is doing right now to showcase the value that they provide. And by showcase the value, I mean justify their fees. They're writing the biggest list possible of all the things they could do that make them worth their money. And then they're showing up and throwing up that big list towards people to say, this is why I'm worth my 2.5%, 3%. The risk in doing so is they show every consumer that they don't need everything they're offering. So if I said, I'm going to do all of this for you for 2.5%, and you looked at the list and said, well, I don't need that, and I don't need that, and I don't need that, I don't need that, the natural response from a consumer is, how much less do I pay? They're building known objections. And I think as LOs, we have the risk of doing the same. If we're asking our real estate partners to be more specific about where they bring value towards other people, do the same and show them how you have unique value propositions for preparing unique clients. And the rally cry I'm having to the real estate industry right now is, how do they get to their clients sooner? Because the value appreciates over time, right? They get to them sooner. But guess what? You have the ability to actually queue jump the realtor partner and bring them referrals. That's the change that I'm seeing right now. Is how do you as LOs get to the person ahead of time, have them ready, give them a value proposition that says, I want to speak to you a year before I'm making a move. So you then present the referral to the realtor partner. You think that sounds crazy? That's very much where we're at right now, should you choose to execute that way around. And I think that's what I'd be relabeling these appointments as, not final mile assessments to help you be able to make an offer, pre-planning for the realistic home moves that you want, and then see if what we can do is shake this referral partner relationship to the other way around. You have the tech, you have the existing relationship, you drop something in their mailbox every single month with a statement. Why you're waiting for a realtor to give them back to you, I don't know. Yeah. You had them already.
And just a push on that, guys. There has never been more equity in America. Your databases are full of consumers that want to help their kids get into homeownership faster. So you're sitting on just a mountain of loans. If you would just be intentional around how you message, how you educate, both on social media and through your database, there's purpose, like let's help more 20-year-olds get into homeownership, and there's profits. There's more loans, there's more home sales, and realtors have never needed it more. So that was awesome, Phil. And Todd, you want to say any other thoughts and bring on our next guest?
Well, Phil, you mentioned unique value proposition. I saw that you've got a webinar upcoming on that. What are the details?
Dang, you putting me on the spot. For our role play group members, I'm running a webinar to about 2,000 real estate professionals about how they can articulate their value proposition right now. We're doing it, I think, towards the end of the month, 27th or something of the month, to our role play group members. It's free, providing you have role play cards. So if you have role play cards, you get the link. If you don't have role play cards, you don't get the link. And if you're in the group on Facebook with the role play cards, link is in there as well. If you're unsure what role play cards look like, this is a box of exactly what to say role play cards. And for LOs, one of the easiest ways to engage conversations with real estate partners is to say, I'm going to facilitate a training. I'm going to have a jam session with you all locally about how we can approach the conversations that we're having right now around the NAR stuff. I'll swing by your office, you come by ours, we'll meet at X and see if we can just jam on how we can be more effective on our conversations around it. But yeah, that's the webinar we're running. I wasn't planning to promote that today, but thank you, Todd, for the layup. Be good to be able to share some thoughts. But that'll be a room full of mostly real estate professionals. I don't know if any of you here would like to be in a room full of mostly real estate professionals. I don't know if any of those connections would be useful to you.
And people are asking, I think if they just go to your Instagram, Phil, M Jones UK, and they just go into they message you role play, then you'll give them a link on how to get the role play cards.
I have like ManyChat set up, which is an automation. If anybody just DMs me the word role play, you'll get the information come straight back at you. If you're wondering how's he responding so quickly, I'm not. It's called technology.
No, I love that. Well, and I would say this, right? You know, the role play cards have been a game changer. The two things that if I get up in front of a room of real estate agents that I talk about are the two things we've just recently talked about here. I talk about First Home IQ and how my mission is to help change the conversation around financial literacy for the youth of America. And then, hey, let me talk to you and your team about how to have different conversations with your clients using the role play card. So super excited about that. Let's any questions on that, just throw it in the chat, but let's kind of keep this party started since we are slightly behind, but I know it's going to be amazing. The second group of folks that we have here coming on. Next up is Gina Myers. And I'm super excited because she's going to talk about the conversation that we all struggle with the most. What is your rate? Welcome, Gina.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Love your book, Phil, and just so honored to be on this call with you. All right. So as mortgage professionals, we all crumble a little bit inside when we get that question, what's your interest rate, right? Because we know that that's not the most important thing, but the client doesn't. And so if we peel back the onion a little bit, right? I remember when I got into the mortgage industry, I learned this and it kind of freaked me out, but the word mortgage was derived from an old French law phrase or word that means death pledge, till death, right? So right away, mortgage doesn't really have the best connotation. It's clearly not the most exciting part of buying a house, but to us it is, but to the consumer, it's not. And so a lot of times, that's really the only question they know. And it's because when they're buying a house, the people close to them, their parents, their family members, their neighbors, their best friends, what do they say to them? Make sure to shop the rate. Okay, so immediately we are all teed up as being liars, basically, or untrustworthy, right? And so I have to think through that. Okay, the client doesn't really know that. They think, okay, I have to talk to 10 different people to figure out who gives me the best rate. But really, what is their question? It's who can I trust? And to me, that's what I've built my business and my brand on, and more so recently, right? When rates started going up and your value, I actually really enjoyed it because I feel like my value became so much greater in being a strategist. And so I took a step back and I said, all these years I've tried to get more and more realtor partners, anyone that had to pulse, right? But we all know, and we could tell many stories about the ones that treat us that like us, trust us, and respect us, and the ones that treat us as a vendor partner. So I made that intention and I focused on it, and I went through the list of who I liked, who I trusted, and who I respected. Those are the people I wanted to work with. And then conversely, if they like and trust and respect me, they'll bring me clients that are kind of like teed up. So when I look, I have a lot of colleagues and real loan officer friends that constantly ask me, oh, I got shopped, I got this rate, I got beat on this rate. Okay, I would be lying if I said I didn't get shopped, but I don't get shopped as much as I used to because I don't view myself as a commodity. I view myself as people would be lucky to work with me because they will be more successful working with me than anyone else because I will show them the way. And so it's not necessarily how do I respond to that question, which I'll absolutely get into, but it's more of what is the process and how do I set the stage for them to understand, why working with me will be so much more successful because they'll like, trust, and respect me. So right away, setting the stage, and I loved, Denise said this, Mo said this, Phil, you said this. I always require a scheduled meeting, and it's video. So I'm right out of the gate setting my professional's tone, right? I have I'm in my office, you can see it. So when they reach out, call, text, or email, it always goes right to scheduling. So I will respond with a specific day and time within 24 hours when we can get together on a video meeting. And I also include a video message of me telling them my commitment to working with them. I only give one time, and guess what? It's the most convenient time for me because I am a professional and these are the hours that I work. Now, I also give them a Calendly link that they can choose the time that works best for them. And so right away, I know if they're scheduling with me, it's more sincere and it's going to be a professional meeting. And then when we get in front of each other, I have complete focus on them. They have complete focus on me. I always get frustrated if people want to call me while driving because this is like a really important conversation. And what does that do? It allows me to see them, to read their body language. I can see when they lean in physically. I can see when they nod their head or maybe they start to tone out. I can pick up on all those things. And then right away, they are getting a much different experience immediately than they would ever get by calling a big bank or a credit union, right? So I'm creating an experience that's professional where they can see me, we're smiling, we're building rapport, so they're liking me, and then we get into the trust. So, then when we talk through and we get to know each other and I ask them, we all do this, right? Like what's prompted you to consider buying a home? We'll get to those pain points. They uncover themselves very quickly. That's when I say perfect, because on the next meeting, just like this, I'm going to share my screen and show you, of course, this is where I bring in the total cost analysis. basically that thing that they were concerned about, right? Whether it's someone who's been renting and their rent is really affordable and they're very vulnerable, right? This is a very vulnerable thing they've said. I don't know that I want to pay more than what I'm renting. So I just don't know that it's a good idea. I'll say, awesome. That is one of the questions I get asked all the time. And inherently, like you said to me, client, you feel like it's just the right thing to do to buy a home. And you are on target with that. But let me show you why. Because one of the biggest aha moments I get from so many other clients who are like you, who file their taxes as a single person, their biggest aha is seeing in full transparency that tax benefit, that forced savings. And we will go through that and compare what is, the comparison truly between renting and owning. And then we'll take it a step further and look through, that net worth. And so, and if someone says to me, and I really just want to know your interest rates, I would say, perfect, right? Of course you would. Rates are elevated. It is one of the hottest topics. We will spend the most time doing that. Whatever they say is most important, I'll tell them we'll spend the most time talking through that. And that's where I say, I will show you all of your options because it is your choice. Sometimes people will say, well, I just need to know what your rates are. I just got the phone. Actually, someone just said this. And he said, well, what most people don't realize is that you can choose any rate you want. And I think it's a disservice oftentimes when other lenders just send a rate. They send one rate and one option. They might think that's the best for them, but is it the best for you? And so I'll tell them when we look at the rates, all the rate sheet, I can see rates ranging from 4% to 9%. And you can really have any of those. And they would say, well, why wouldn't I pick the lowest? And I would say, of course, that's a great question. But what I'm here to advise you is to say, why would you pick a rate where the upfront cost, the break even on spending that money up front takes you longer than the life of the loan, right? That would be ridiculous. You would never want to spend all that money. And so they're agreeing. So I just basically, my process has dramatically changed the rate shoppers because I'm so in it with them. Like this morning, I had a rate lock call. So at that point, I've already seen these people now twice on video. First for the initial meeting, whether they've applied or not. I actually prefer if they don't apply because when they apply, I can see how fast they've applied so I can see their interest. The second is the loan pre-approval meeting where we go through every single option. I let them know that they're officially pre-approved. We pass the baton. I go through all the details with them. And then the third, my meeting with them is the lock call. So at this point, they're thanking me. They're thanking me for all the information that I provided them. Obviously, I've called the listing agent. I tell them that story. I tell them what the listing agent said, what I said, how we went back and forth and how I helped them win. They're basically thanking me. And that is what happened this morning. They said, you and Tana were like, oh my gosh, what a great tag team. We're so lucky to have you. Great. Do you think they're going to shop me? No. So it's really not, I would say, I don't say all these like, oh, here's my comeback on this script. I basically validate what they said. Of course, you're worried about interest rates. That is the elephant in the room, especially how they've been so volatile lately. Who knows what rates are, right? But then I also share with them data. If they really want to get into the nitty gritty, I, of course, will show them the loan options and the cost benefit of buying down the rate. And then if they want to go even further, I'll still screen share with them and show them Mortgage News Daily or Rocket Mortgage or anyone that they want to pull up. I'll pull it up right there and show them the fine print, like pay attention. Do you see how they show this rate? But then if you go to the really, really small, details, we all need our reading glasses just to read it. They say this rate also requires X, Y, and Z. So there's a lot in the fine print. At the end of the day, it's always your choice. And let me show you. And so I build that transparency, which builds trust.
What I'm hearing here is just an echo like everybody else is find a way to slow down and have a more meaningful conversation with the consumer. That's what it is. And there's lots of ways that we can be able to do this. But the worst thing on the rate question is to respond with a, I'm not telling you. Respond with a, it depends. or respond with a 6.29% is the best rate we can access to right now. Is any form of quick answer is going to result in this being a quick conversation, which was the outcome you didn't want. Also, anything that looks evasive. I want you all to realize, though, that the how much do you charge question is an opening line in almost every industry on the planet. So if you think that this is unique towards mortgage, it isn't. I do a lot of work inside the hearing care industry. What is an initial inquiry from somebody calling an audiologist or a hearing instrument specialist is how much are hearing aids? And what happens is that whole industry would say it depends, or they'd say there's a range, or they'd give this like stupid answer that results in people hanging up the phone call. In that industry, what I taught people to do is to say, well, which hearing aids would you like to buy? And you know what the consumer would say? They say, we've got no idea. Mm-hmm. We'd say, well, neither do we. I'd say, when was the last time you had your hearing tested? They say, we haven't for a while. I'd say, is this for you or a loved one? They'd say, well, it's for me or it's for mum. I'd say, it sounds to me like you're looking to just have an understanding as to if you are to come in and diagnose a hearing loss that was treatable by hearing aids, you just want to have a rough idea what you might be asked to spend so we don't waste each other's time. Does that sound fair? And they're like, yeah, that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know I'm in the right shop. The same rules could apply to the mortgage industry. They say, what's your rate? You say, absolutely. Do you know the specific product you'd like me to quote you for? Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, I don't. You'd say, well, are you looking to buy? Are you looking to refinance, etc.? That start to be able to open up. You'd say, where are you living right now? You say, do you own it or are you renting? You'd say, how did you go about getting into contact with me? Are you a referral from a trusted realtor partner, or are you coming from elsewhere? You can then say, is there a specific rate you're looking for us to be able to try and beat? They'd say, no, nothing in particular. You'd say, well, so I can give you access to the right available rates, so I can give you a full spectrum of what's available. Is note that one of the good news reasons that you get from working with an experienced loan originator as opposed to just a single product provider is we have access to a plentiful number of rates. And what I find frustrating is so many people think it's just about the rate. Mm-hmm. They don't give consideration to sign-on fees. They don't consideration to costs of servicing that loan over that time period. So are you looking for the lowest rate, or are you looking for the easiest way for you to get to the outcome that you want on your home? Well, I'm looking for the easiest way to get to the outcome I'm looking for on the home. Okay. Well, would it be okay if I ask you a few questions so that what I can do is provide you with a solution that is going to be really fit for purpose as opposed to just guessing? They're going to say, yeah, sure. I'd say, when would it be a good time to have that conversation? They're going to say, how long do you need? I say, we could probably do it right now if you've got a whole 7 minutes. They're like, I got 7 minutes right now. You say, well, let's go. Also note this, is I'm not just a call center operative in a call center. I'm an experienced loan originator. I've been helping people in circumstances like yours for over 25 years. To date, we've helped over XYZ to achieve ABC. So we're going to create a custom solution for you and your family. Does that sound like the kind of outcome you're looking for? Yes. Great. Get into questions, build the case, and then plan next steps. But this is an everyday conversation, right, Gina? This is not like a, where's my witty one-liners? It's like every day we know that they're going to be saying, what's your rate? What's your rate? What's your rate? Let's not get lethargic by it. Just view it as a giant buying signal. If they're saying, what's your rate? They want to buy a loan. You're not asking the price on something you don't want to buy, right? Mm-hmm. Gina, just answer me this. Where's your mindset on this, though? Because I think for some of the less experienced agents here on the call is we can get asked that, like, what's your rate question? And it can make us really nervous. It can make us really uncomfortable. And how do you control this both from a sort of mindset and a posture point of view so that you have confidence stepping into this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oftentimes it's not the first question. Like, and I've watched some previous SCRIPT-a-PALOOZAs and they come right out of the gate, and that's like a little jarring. But I would say if that is the first question and the only question, and that that's all they're looking for, then they're really not a good match, and I've told people that we're not a great match, because if you are only concerned about the rate and not, what does the house mean to you? What does the monthly payment, how do we, get you out of this situation into a situation that's better for you and your family, as Jeremy was saying earlier. If that is it, then I take a page out of some, like Sean Herrera said this the other day when he said, lose early, right? So I try not to get super upset by that, because that's not my people. And so I find a lot of joy with helping my people. And so if you're not my people, then that's okay. And a lot of times I can tell exactly which realtors they come from. It's the same. We all know it, so I try not to get upset when it's like this morning. I actually had one where the realtor, I've tried to distance myself, but they keep kind of coming back. And so, sure, I've had some pre-approvals, but I know part of their plan is to then say, great client, you're under contract. Now here, my value to you is for you to shop this across the 5 other lenders and we all just beat the crap, beat each other up. That's not my person, So I could have gotten upset about losing this morning, but I was like, no, that was like a 50-50 shot. That typically happens, that's not really my person. So mindset wise, I just try to go back to where, understanding that that's the question the clients only really know to ask. A lot of sophisticated clients, highly educated clients, they still only ask that question because it's the one that is the I don't know, like they want to attach us to a commodity, and I'm trying to constantly disattach from being a commodity. And so I will use stories. I'll use whatever that pain point was, as Mo was saying earlier. What is that pain point? And I'll say, you've mentioned earlier in the conversation that houses come up and then they're gone before you even have an opportunity to make an offer on it. So this is how we will help you be prepared, feel confident, be ready. This is an experience I had this weekend with your same realtor who there were 10 offers on it and our client won, and this is how we did it. So I disassociate from that question by really just jogging my memory on like a story that relates to that person, because they want to be like other people. They want to win, and we're just the advisor leading the way. So I don't know. I just kind of like.
And I think collect those stories, right? Collect those stories, be ready to be able to retell them. Sometimes on the rate question, you might need to give a quick answer and build your quick answers. And I would be saying things like, you're so smart to be asking that question right now, because with all the movement in interest rates, the last thing you want is to be able to get a great home and then get the wrong product with it, or not time the market from the mortgage correctly. And they're like, yeah, that's why, etc. So give them the answer back. And if you're just looking for a quick answer, is the best rate I've secured in the last 7 days was blank. And just give them the number. And that was for somebody with a high deposit that had a FICO score in the high 700s. And they had a strong cash down payment and an experienced relationship with ourselves. Like, how do those kind of terms compare to yours? And you watch them now open up. They're like, oh, I've got some credit defaults and I'm looking at 10% down, and they'll just show up and throw up in the other direction. So you're going to need not one answer to this question, because otherwise the job gets boring too. Have fun and be playful. Sometimes you need efficiency. Sometimes you need expansion. Sometimes you need to show high levels of love and slow the process down. Sometimes you need to politely send somebody on their merry way, right? And have them go and do business with somebody else because you don't want them. But these are all the skills that are worthy of developing as you step into this area of going further into your professional career as a mortgage professional. Is to level up multiple answers. And Gina's just given us a masterclass on how to think, act, and speak around the "what are your rates" question. So thank you, Gina.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And Gina, I've interviewed you so many times. I know the answer, but I want people to hear it. How many loans do you think you'll close this year, and what do you think your volume will be? What are you on track for?
Sure, yeah. I think I'll probably do about 120, 130 million. It'll probably be like 200 loans around there.
So guys, this is the #1 female loan officer in the state of Virginia, right? There you go. And did you hear? She's slowing down. She's slowing down the conversation. She's spending a lot of time when it matters, both with consumers, given an uncommon level of transparency and advice to people. I saw someone talk about, TCA, that's the total cost analysis. Guys, every speaker on this stage is elite, is among the best of the best. And they all are sharing the same thing. They're slowing down. And the last 2 speakers who we're going to close out with, they'll show you how they're helping realtors during the NAR settlement. What you're hearing, this is how you win going forward. So Gina, that was incredible. And obviously, Phil, you're always incredible at unpacking it and then just always giving more.
Thank you.
Dave, I just want to say one thing to a question here in the chat as well that builds on it. Something Gina brought up, but was an answer is, what's the conversation you have with a realtor that tells your client to shop you after you're the one that helped the client get their offer accepted? And I think it's huge, right? I mean, it's what do you do with that now? And then I'll share some thoughts as to how we might be able to get different on this as the world's changing too.
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, I will be having that conversation here because I felt like I already had it, but then I also just sort of distanced myself, so I didn't really mind. On that, I would probably call and say, hey, we were working with I forget her name, Natalie, and it sounded like she really enjoyed working with us. We really helped go under contract. I'm a little concerned though, because very quickly she ghosted, and I wasn't sure, was there something that we could have done? Clearly, I just need to know what we could have done better to serve her. And he'll probably come back as, well, Gina, this is what we do. We shop rates. And that's where I would get into just saying, like, it creates a lot of confusion and anxiety in addition for the client, right? Because we've built the rapport, and you as the advisor referred that person to us. And so it actually kind of, I think, detracts from your position, because it's like, maybe you didn't trust who you initially referred her to. And so I don't know that in the long run, that's going to be the best suited, because especially since now they just went with someone that has no ID on her file. You actually maybe don't know that we have these, these nuances about this particular situation. So I would hate to see that blow up for her or for you, just because you thought that there was value add on shopping the rates and beating up lenders. And at the end of the day, this was all overnight and weekend. And so it's going to create a lot of friction for realtor or lender partners that you work with, because they will start to distance themselves from you when we're putting in additional hours after hours for your clients. And then Monday morning, they're ghosting us. Like, it's just not a great professional relationship.
And I think we can call people out all the time by saying, not necessarily I'm concerned, but I'm confused, I'm puzzled, I'm perplexed. Like, these words are helpful. Like, I'm really puzzled at how we got ourselves into this situation. Like, did I do something wrong? And you watch them backpedal a million miles an hour. Like, I'm a touch puzzled as to how we got to this. Did I do something wrong? No, you didn't do something wrong. Okay. So how would you feel if when I've got somebody that's thinking about buying or selling, is I just say, go shop around in the local marketplace. I don't respect the business we've done together over the last 10 years. How would you feel if I did that? Are you looking for us to grow together, or are we our own independent players in this? Do you think we can achieve more together as a team than we can by trying to fight our own battle? And you see what I'm doing here in questions? I'm just having them see for themselves that they behaved out of line a lot. And I can then close that conversation out by saying, well, what do you understand about the potential consequences long-term for your client with them going with an inappropriate lender? What do you understand about the potential consequences? They're going to be like, well, what do you mean? Well, there are 7 things that client told me specifically about their long-term goals, that if they end up with the wrong product, they're going to find themselves caught up overpaying for fees. And who do you think they're going to blame for that? Because it won't be me. But you see how everything is like mirror, 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 not being a loan originator that's upset because you didn't get your commission check. Is just hold posture and be like, politely, and I know that we're on record here and that we're being recorded, is to, like, just don't be a dick. That's what the advice is to the realtor, is like let's play long-term together and play to win, but give them the ability to save face. Because I think if you do it elegantly, Gina, what you'll always get is all of their future business. Like, you're not going to turn around the yesterday deal.
Right.
You might. But what you definitely want to bank on is, I want everything in the future, and I want them to know that they've misplaced, but allow them to save enough face that they still want to work with you moving forward. Because we can, at risk here, win the argument and lose all the future business.
Okay. That's great.
Which is what we definitely don't want to do. But definitely be prepared to front this up. Because if you say nothing, you're going to be a walkover forever. And then you are the third-rate rate shopper, and you're losing business to somebody who was stronger with that realtor partner than you are. This all gets solved, though. Get ahead of the realtor, and you get to decide whether you're going to, encourage them to shop around realtors. This would be the game I'll be playing. Get as far upstream as you can with future buyers and sellers.
Love it. Thank you.
You notice how when Phil starts asking questions, he takes control of the conversation. And I think that's one of the skills that I've learned the most in the last couple of years, being part of your Exactly What to Say community, Phil, is the fact that those questions really matter. And when you have when you've taken the time to understand the right questions to ask, then you really create that curiosity that you need in order to get people to listen and be open-minded to hearing what you have to say versus the assumptions they've already made.
There's a lesson here for all of us as well. Like, you're hearing from some of the best of the best of the best of the best that are driving out incredible results, incredible numbers. And one commonality from all four of the speakers that we've had up so far is they're all working on getting better. They're all looking at saying, so now what and where next? There's nobody that's like, I figured this out. It's like, how are we still figuring this out together? And I think if you're not catching that common thread here, is that the people who are at the top of their game in this performance are there because they're hungry at, so now what? Where do we go from here? Like, that's a common thread for everybody, which is why, Dave, I guess we have to keep doing this again and again and again, right? So that what we have is front of mind. How do we sharpen how we show up in support of others so they can appreciate the value you're providing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. So one of the other things that we're pretty excited to start talking about today is a new training mastermind that we've created called Modern Mortgage IQ. We teased it a few weeks back on the Friday Trust Engine call that Dave, Deborah, and I do, and it's something that we've been working on for quite a while, trying to figure out what is a new offering that's a little bit different in the industry, actually a lot different in the industry, that makes it something that you can use as a manager to work with your loan officers for training on a weekly basis. If you're a loan officer, it's what you can do to become better with others and create accountability. If you're a loan officer, it's how you can work better with your real estate agent partners to help grow your business, just like what Phil and Gina were just talking about. And there's definitely a lot of great offerings in the mortgage space. And so we really spent a lot of time trying to figure out how could we make Modern Mortgage IQ something different, something super valuable, and really loaded with a lot of content. Many of you have been, over the last number of years, attended the Modern Mortgage and Modern Real Estate Summit. So that was really just the base of what we created within this new community. It's built off of the Circle platform, which those of you who are part of First Home IQ are really familiar with. It's a great collaboration platform, and it's got all the video content from all the previous events in there, as well as a lot of new content that is already in there and that's going in there on an ongoing basis. So we're pretty excited. We're going to launch it with a 33% discount. I had to do quick math in my head. It's going to be $1,000 a year, so it's not a low cost offering, but we wanted to make it at a price that we felt was affordable in this market, and offer a money back guarantee if someone jumps in and looks at it and says, this just isn't for me. And so we're pretty stoked to do that. It's only going to be for the first 100 members that can get in at the reduced price. And, it's going to be a privilege and honor to guide people through this new community.
I just don't believe that only the special ones are going to be successful. You can learn from other people who are doing it right now, who are finding a way to win in a tough market.
If you're counting on your success being directly correlated to number of fundings, you are going to lose, because the game has changed. The game right now is, how do you have a positive impact on people?
I'm going to show you how you can do a lot of business with a very small team. My goal was to do more in a down year and capture more market share. And I did that with me, one loan officer assistant, and a shared processor.
I'm going to share with you how to define a compelling value statement and then articulate it to separate yourself from the rest.
So Kristen, Messerly, and Todd, thank you guys so much for all the time you put into this. I am one of the first guides, so I'm stoked to be a guide. I know Jeremy Forcier is a guide. There's going to be other guides that are helping create content, taking the content from the Modern Mortgage Summit, helping producing managers use that content in sales meetings to help elevate their folks. And then, of course, all the Modern Real Estate Summit content. It's all in one place, and being able to use that to recruit realtors and be a better leader to realtors. So check it out. The link's down below, and I think Todd and Kristen are providing a $500 savings. So get signed up, be one of the first 50. And Gina, I would love to have you be a guide if you're game.
Yeah, count me in.
Count you in, right on. And then, hey, Phil, I had an idea that would be cool. With the cards that you have, I have a feeling that some loan officers will be better at having that conversation with flashcards than others, internally. Like, how do they use it to be effective internally? And then how do they use those cards with realtors? Would you be willing to create a couple guided experiences and put them in the Modern Mortgage IQ that would help people have better conversations?
Yeah, so I guess what you're talking about here is how LOs can utilize the cards to engage with real estate partners.
Boom.
Is one. And then secondly,
train with them.
How can loan originators use them internally to be able to sharpen up their skills when speaking to buyers and sellers?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
So micro trainings yeah, absolutely. Being as you asked, and particularly if they're people who are attached to this community, then yeah, we'll make that happen in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. So
only give it to people who have cards though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they need to have the cards if the training is going to have value.
Yeah,
so anyways,
it's going to be like invisible magic tricks with no cards.
Right on. Todd, anything else you want to say before we move to our second to last guest, Mr. Dan Keller? Anything else?
No, I'm just excited to get it rolling, and don't want to take more time, as I know we're already taking up your valuable time, everyone, today. But just know we're super excited.
Yeah. Hey, Gina, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the value you always bring in this community. We're going to bring Mr. Dan Keller on stage. What's up, Mr. Keller?
Good afternoon.
Good. So again, Dan's one of those guys where I've interviewed him so many times. He's always one of the top 10 interviews of the year in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. He's wearing the shirt, being a mortgage coach in Seattle, Washington, killing it. And not only is he killing the mortgage business, he's killing it as a dad. I don't know anybody that does as much volume. It gets as many days out on the water catching salmon up there, Dan. So congrats on everything you do, brother. Well, I'm going to let you guys take it away. Dan is going to talk about how he's delivering pre-approvals during these NAR settlement changes. And Phil is gonna give feedback, and I know he's going to kill it. So I'll let you guys take it from here.
Yeah, I think the next few minutes is going to be super valuable for me with Phil, because I know Phil's been on some really big stages and groups with some of the top real estate companies in America and helping them navigate through these NAR settlement changes, these buyer agency laws and new laws that go into effect. I'm going to start by saying I've built a career in the mortgage industry leveraging change. I think change just screams opportunity if you've got the right goggles and glasses on. Okay. The day that this came out, I want to say it came out on a Friday about 2 months ago, that, oh my gosh, all these lawsuits and these companies are getting sued and they're settling. I was like, what the heck is this all about? Like, and this is kind of a big deal because the number that was attached to it. So the first thing I did, I jumped on social media. I was driving home from work that day, and I saw this real estate agent in North Carolina, top agent in North Carolina, but she's also the head of her National Association of Realtors, or local Association of Realtors. She goes, listen, I'm taking my NAR hat off right now, and this is crap. And she kind of addressed that, but then also addressed some of the other things. It is what it is. How do we move forward? And I'm like, wow, this is kind of a big deal. So then on Saturday, I jumped onto a call with a colleague of mine that runs a region for EXP, has about 700 agents. And I jumped on their mass. I said, hey, what's going on with this stuff? And I listened to what they had to say. Then on Monday, I got on a national call with EXP, a national call with John L. Scott, a couple of big organizations around here. And I got to just learn. And I think as mortgage professionals, we need to learn what this means, not only to our clients, but our realtor partners. I've said this from stage before, my number one job working with real estate agents is to help them make more money. Number one. My team and I are going to close loans in our sleep. We're really, really good at that. But if you partner with me, I'm going to help you make more money. So I had to learn this. By Wednesday of the following week, I was booking office meetings, going in and talking. I've been in 6 different offices over the last month talking about this. And I've been leveraging MortgageCoach on, number one, how I am explaining this to clients, to borrowers before they get to you. And I'll tell you what, you want to see realtors' ears perk up? Having a lender that's showing leadership in a space going, hey, I'm going to explain buyer agency agreements and buyer's agency and all of that stuff to the clients, kind of 30,000 foot view. But I'm going to explain this first before the agent gets backed into a corner, because let's just face it, most of our real estate agents, you guys know this, most of our real estate agents have a really hard time articulating their value, number one, and then selling. Okay, they get referrals and they show homes, they get referrals and they go into a living room and they get the listing agreement signed. So what I've done is I've tried to go out into real estate offices. I've tried to have conversations right away. I've made videos on this, on how I'm attacking this. And so I want all of you guys to think of it this way: change equals opportunity. With this particular series of events, because we've watched this unravel up until Saturday where it went public, we up in Washington State have kind of already been playing by these rules, with the exception of now not knowing what the seller is willing to pay. So I'm having conversations at pre-approval with my clients. So let me walk you through this so you guys kind of have some perspective on my pre-approval process. Our pre-approval meeting, we go over budget. Okay. Before I go over budget, I'm asking them why they want to buy a home. I need them to say something about it being financial. I want to stop paying rent. I want to buy in a better community. I need to tie it to net worth. So why are you buying a home? We're going to review their budget. We're going to review their pre-approval. Through there, I'm going to talk, after we talk about their pre-approval, their budget, and their finances, I'm going to ask them, do you have any big questions for me? And then the final thing is, I never leave a meeting without a client or a realtor knowing what to expect next. So I tell them that. The worst thing that I could do as your mortgage advisor is have you leave this great meeting today, pre-approved, budgets dialed in, clear on how I'm going to help you create wealth and manage your mortgage over time, like Jeremy said, but you not knowing what to expect next. And so I walk them through what to expect next. The first thing that I'm saying, and I'm asking them this, I'm not telling them, I'm asking, have you been paying attention or have you heard anything in the news recently about real estate agents and lawsuits over their commissions? And right now, I've only been doing this for about a month, you guys, so the jury's still out on this, but I'm hearing north of 50% are saying yes, but they don't know what it means, okay? So they're going into this dark. So what I'm saying in a nutshell, in order to go tour a home with a real estate agent, you're going to have to sign a buyer's agency agreement with that agent. Now, it doesn't lock you into working with them long-term, but it does talk about, hey, you now have entered into a relationship with an agent. That agent's going to get paid. And so the interesting thing about this initial conversation is there's not a whole lot of questions until I bring this up. And if you don't mind, please let me share my screen. And I've been proactive enough where Deb Bird helped me with this a few months ago, right when this came out. I created this document and Deb's like, Dan, I can do better. Let me make this for you. So, and if you want a copy of this, Deb can make it for you. She's going to charge you because it's going to take her time, up a lot of her time, and she's super valuable. But this is a 4-page packet that I've added to my mortgage pre-approval. Why buyer's agent representation is important. 90+ tasks that a buyer's agent is going to do for you as a borrower. Okay. Number 2, we talk about agency. Now, right now, we're a couple months into this. 97.9% of the time in America, the seller is going to pay your agent's commission. But in that off chance that the seller is not willing to do that, and you love this house, the last thing I'm going to do as a lender is let something that we can control, something that we can actually take control of, get in the way of you winning the home you love and creating wealth. So in the event that this happens, this is your scenario. And I do this with MortgageCoach. So this one is just a round purchase. It's $1 million purchase with 10% down. And I give them the 4 options here, you guys. This is pre-2024. So this is in an ideal state right here. Commissions, this is 97% of the time is option number 1. But let's say the seller won't pay your commission. We can roll it into price. So look, the price point went up by 30 grand. Or, okay, we can keep the price point at $1 million and we can pay it out of pocket. So look, our cash to close goes up. Or we can go over here, option 4, and we can put down a little bit less money. So we're going to put down 7% instead of 10. All of which, you guys, does not take away from our original goal. Next slide. Net worth. So I do a 5-year net worth analysis. Look at this. Whatever option you choose, you're going to net, let's say you took the third option. In 5 years, you're going to improve your net worth by $530,000+. So do we want to, I call it at the very top, are we going to trip over dollar bills to pick up some pennies? Absolutely not. Wealth creation, you told me this at the very beginning, is your #1 goal. Real estate's going to get you there. And then I learned this from my good friend Dave, and I use it in my sales process. I know 3 things about all people that I've met, all walks of life financially. #1, they want to be debt-free one day, sooner than later. #2, they'd love to own their home free and clear one day. #3, they want to retire well off. My job is to help you get there. Tripping over some little tiny stones in the road regarding real estate agents' compensation that you need per slide 1 is not going to help us get there. So I share that with them. And then the last thing, you guys, and this is where, and guys, by the way, I'm sharing this with real estate agents, and every single one of them is like, holy crud, I've not seen one lender do this, okay, in my marketplace. And I'm up here in Seattle. There's a lot of lenders up here. So when a client gets pre-approved with me, I attach a mortgage RX form. It's like a prescription. Like you're going to go to the doctor's going to give you a prescription. You go to your pharmacy, you get it filled. Here's my RX form. And I only send this to their real estate agent, okay, their buyer's agent. And I talk about their credit and I talk about their cash. I give them an overview so they can write a really good offer. Look what I've added down at the bottom. Remaining items to qualify. Can the borrower pay RE agent commissions if needed? Yes, they've been educated and have that option. You guys, I've shared this. I've got an office meeting tomorrow. I think there's probably 28 agents that are coming to this. And I get goosebumps and I get excited for that last slide. Because if I was a real estate agent and my lender was being proactive and having these conversations with me and for me to protect my commission in this market and educating them on if, and this is my own personal opinion. And I tell clients this, and I tell realtors this. If you're prepared, I believe that 3% of the time where the seller is not willing to pay a commission, I want you to think about those sellers. Those sellers think they know it all. They've probably already hired a discount broker to represent them. A good real estate agent that knows how to negotiate and that knows the market is actually going to get you a better deal on that house. So worst case scenario, if you have to pay for their commission, I think you're going to win in the long run. So I go over all that with them. I ask them if they have any questions. Right when I get done with the pre-approval meeting, I call the real estate agent. I let them know that I've gone over this, and then I send them the RX letter, the pre-approval letter, and I also send them that packet that I just showed you guys. So I want to close with this. When I talk with real estate agents, you guys, I learned this from Ed Milet a long time ago, and it just stuck with me. And he said, he was talking about his dad. His dad was a recovering alcoholic. And some guy helped his dad stop drinking one day, and it changed their lives forever. And he said that we are most qualified to help the person we used to be. Think about this as loan officers. We dealt with 2008, 2010. We dealt with TRID. We dealt with COVID. We've dealt with our comp being under fire. We've dealt with so much change, so many things that had to force us to become better at selling. We have a little bit of an advantage articulating our value, dealing with objections. And I firmly believe this, you guys. And Phil, I'd love your opinion on this. But if you don't know what to say, I believe you create additional objections, you create more work, and you delay the timeline to closing. And I believe that us as lenders, if we lead through these NAR changes, boy, I tell you, like I said in that video, that intro video for today, I think you have the opportunity to be a hero to real estate agents versus just being a lender.
I agree completely. And I'd go as far as saying that if you are not helping people find clarity around this puzzle, is you are a part of the problem. That what you're doing is you are negatively affecting the already negative stereotype of both loan originators and real estate professionals. There is going to become a chasm of a difference between those that are pro and those that are trying to make a fast buck. And the marketplace is going to get very clear. And what I love about these documents, Dan, and what you're sharing here is they're ridiculously relevant for today. What I warn you all of, though, is they're not so relevant for tomorrow and next month and the year after that, because the landscape is changing. The concept of educating both buyers, sellers, and real estate agents is the loud lesson that I'm getting here, is get ahead of it. But note that what's coming in this NAR stuff too is that a buyer's agent cannot collect more than they wrote onto the agreement they signed. So if they sign an agreement at 2.5%, We've got another narrative here, right? What if the seller was paying 3% and that the buyer's agent can collect 2.5%? What happens with the other 0.5%?
Seller.
Like that could get kicked back in at the closing table.
Yep.
Also, what we're going to see is what NAR was looking for was not buyer's agency agreement. They were looking for an open market. Never lose sight of that. They were looking for an open market. So that means that there are going to be people offering buyer's agency at 1%, buyer's agency at $1,500, buyer's agency at $5,000. It also means that there are people that might be demanding more. It will become the wild, wild west. And I think what we need to be able to do is to help people understand that there are a variety of different ways that they need to be given consideration. One of the easiest ways that loan originators can wrap their heads around this is when you're early on in the conversation. Possibly one of the most valuable questions that you can be asking of people is, who's your agent? Not do you have an agent? Who's your agent? They're going to answer that in one of two ways. Dan, what's the two ways they can answer that question? Who's your agent?
John, or I don't know.
Right? One of those two directions. If they say it's John, which it might be, you're going to say, how did you go about selecting John as your agent? And they're going to tell you. And you are going to say, well, what are some of the services you're looking for John to be able to support you with over the transaction? And they're going to tell you. You're going to say, can John also help you with this, 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 and this? And they're going to say, yes. You're going to say, has John presented you with his fees? And hopefully they're going to say, yes. Because in theory, they should be already under agreement with John, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to say, well, John's looking to be able to charge you 2.5% of purchase price. There are some circumstances where you might make offers on homes where they're providing a compensation of 3%. There's going to be a lot of listings that are going to go out with 2%. And then the buyer's agency is going to be at 2.5%. There might be 0.5% to make up. Are you looking for us to include that in the loan? Or are you looking for us to just play out all of the speculation based on supporting John's terms? But if they say, oh, I haven't got one, you say this simple question stack. What is your experience of working with a professional real estate agent? They're either going to tell you or not tell you. What do you understand about all of your options when it comes to having representation in the purchase? You're then going to say, how important is it to you that you have somebody who can help with blank? How important is it that you can have somebody who can help with blank? How important is it going to have somebody help with blank? And they're going to paint the picture of what they're looking for. You can say, well, would it help if I could introduce you to a real estate agent that meets that criteria? And they're going to say, heck yes. You're going to say, like, what I'm introducing you to is somebody who's going to be representing you in the transaction, not a commission-only sales agent for the seller. Somebody that's looking after your fiduciary responsibility. Now, for that, you're going to need to pay a fee. John will talk to you about that when you chat. There's lots of creative ways that we can support that in the lending should we need to. But given that net worth is the goal that you're looking for, given that the outcome that you're looking to achieve is blank, as well as professional representation on the mortgage side, you're going to look for professional representation with the attorney and the real estate broker too. Correct? Yes. Great. The next step is. But what I would be concerned about, Dan, about what you're saying is if you fast forward 6 months, your data is going to look out of date. The shopping list of things that you could do of the 94 potential things, people are going to be like, I don't need that. 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 And they're going to be asking you questions you as the LO don't want to get involved in. Mm-hmm. Like, how much should I pay? And the same thing that you don't like about what realtors do to you as LOs, where they tell you to shop the rate around. You're going to be doing the same thing back to real estate professionals if you're not prepared for it. You're going to say, well, look, just speak to 3 good buyers agents locally and see what you can push for. And, you might be able to get one that does 2.25 or 2 or 2.5. What do they remember? They remember 2, and you told them that 2 was possible. So be careful about where this is going rather than just where it's at right now. And I think the fact that you can get ahead of this means that you can control the referrals better than anybody else with everybody that you've ever done business with in the past. And it's important. And whereas, Dan, you've been in the office 6 times in the last week, getting those same offices again in 12 weeks, getting those same offices again 12 weeks after that, getting those same offices 12 weeks after that. And remember this also in the NAR settlement piece, just like there are gazillions of people that don't remember a time when FaceTime didn't exist, Fast forward 12, 18, 24 months, there are going to be hundreds of people and thousands of people that are like, this is just how it works. This is going to be normal at some point really soon. It just isn't normal because how it was pre-August 17th. And I'm not calling it August 17th. I'm calling it Saturday. Because that's what it was. It's now over. It was just Saturday. We're now just into a world that we have to tell people with transparency how they pay. And haven't you been needing to do this in the mortgage industry forever? With disclosures at the closing table, you're like, well, that's my money. That's going to the title company. That's that. Buyers agencies just need to be a part of that conversation too. But Dan, do you get the risk on that document as well as we fast forward?
I do. I think I'm using it right now to lead with, to show value, but absolutely, yeah, all of this stuff. And I have what I was saying at the very beginning too about change leading to opportunity. None of it has hurt me. None of it that I've gone, the change that we've seen over the last 15 years has really hurt me financially or hurt me, in my business. And so to your point, in 6 months from now, this is going to be business as usual. We won't be talking about it and it won't be relevant. But right now, it's such a good opportunity right now to get the attention of realtors because loan officers aren't doing this. And this is an advantage.
Yeah. And the more you can consider the exceptions in your models as well, the smarter it will make you look in there as well. I think like when you're seeing around some blind corners where they're like, well, what about this scenario where listing agent was offering 2% commission, buyer's agent sold at 2.5%? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think even if it's status quo in 6 months, I still think that loan officers in this community, the loan officers who are using a total cost analysis to show what you just showed there, Dan, I think we'll still win because we'll do a better job of helping articulate it to not just our real estate agents, but to clients as well.
Well, and I also think we're in a window to grab market share. I mean, the change is happening now. And so I use the term, it's never been more important, mastermind training. Like you should be training now because there's a war going on. And guys, as rates start ticking down, there's going to be a war for those refis. Servicers have never had better automation. Servicers have never had better talent in scripting. Those that are left in the industry have never been better. So, whether it's the war to get realtors during this shift or the war to get refis as rates start tipping down, like this is mastermind training time. I saw a lot of questions, guys, about the mastermind that Kristen Messerly is leading and what, the two of them put together. And I'm a guide for this platform. So just to clear up a few questions, it's $1,500 a year. They're offering the first 50 users to get it for $500 savings. And I don't know, but I'm guessing they're not going to raise your price in the next year. And there's a link to be one of the first 50. And I think you could also email sales@firsthomeIQ.com if you guys have questions. So email Kristen with any questions, be one of the first 50. And it's going to be an incredible training platform. So check it out. Todd, anything else you want to say on this session before we bring in our closer? Like we're running a relay. We've got 6 legs. We've got the closer. First of all, everybody, when James comes in, trust me, he's over schedule. So apologies to James for that, but let's give him a big applause with the reactions. Let's give him a standing ovation when he comes in. But Todd, anything else or Phil, anything else before we bring in our final speaker?
Let's bring him in. We're ready and pumped. And I'm grateful for people still being here, right? We see over time, I said we'd struggle to get this into 2 hours. We knew it, but the value, I hope, has been worth it for you to be here. And I hope that you found the time worthwhile. So let's bring best energy for final presenter, like we bring great energy to Jeremy when we kicked off, and be here fully present because, yes, we have the best up front, but there's still even better to come.
I want to see the reactions for a big thank you to Dan Keller. He also stayed over schedule.
Yay.
Thank you,
yes,
Dan.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely. And James is joining us from vacation.
Yeah. Hey, there's a lot of comments, you guys, on this RX form. If you go to my private group, it's Rise MLO. I'll post all of that in there for all of you guys to download. You don't have to pay. Now, you can pay Deb Bird to make that first document, but I'll upload my RX form pre-approval letter if you guys want.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate you, brother. You're such a gift to this community and everything you're already in. the modern mortgage IQ. So thank you for everything, Dan.
My pleasure.
All right, so let me introduce James, guys. I interviewed him for the first time this year, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of the top 10 interviews of the year. The guy is just fire. He's killing it out of the Northeast Connecticut market. James?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I'll put a link down below to his interview. The other folks that we've had on this stage have been on this stage multiple times. So I think a lot of people that follow the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel know these folks. James is new, but he is just killing it. And so I had asked him to come in and talk about how to win pre-approvals when you're making blind offers. Like what I mean by blind, it means that the buyer and the buyer's agent does not know whether or not the seller is willing to pay the commission. So they're coming in basically assuming that they might pay it, they might not. I don't know. So I'm going to jump off stage, let you guys close it out, and hear the leadership, hear the scripting. So let's roll.
Cool. Well, Dave, thanks for having me. I mean, first things first, like absurd to call me the closer and put me after Dan Keller, like embarrassing to go after him. Dude's a legend. Dan, I've looked up to you for a long time. Awesome. Like once again, delivering incredible value. So much of what you had to say really aligns with what we're doing. We're out there training offices on NAR settlement. That's literally what I've been doing for 2 months straight, which is 75-minute training. I've been in front of 500 agents doing like a really in-depth, like, hey, let's break down the Fannie Mae bulletin. Let's talk about the difference between payments and credits, like really getting granular, and not for the objective of them leaving that knowing how to do our job, but for the objective of leaving with them knowing, shoot, I need a great loan officer right now more than I've ever needed that person in my entire life. And really leaving the room with the sense of, you've got to have a partner in the business right now who has the ability to articulate the solutions to the problem that we face, or you're going to be in trouble when your appraisal comes in short and your 6% credit goes down to 3% and you just lost your 2.5% buyer agent commission and you don't have a lender nimble enough to make that change. So like, kudos to you. That RX sheet, I'd love a copy of that if you're willing to graciously share that with me. That's super cool. Like, always learning so much from you guys. But I'm like really a simple creature. I don't use a ton of tech. I just talk to people, and that's honestly where I come from. I'm like a big relationship guy. My whole business is predicated on doing more loans with less agents. So I don't work with like 50 agents. I'm not going to be calling 50 agents on a Monday or a Tuesday. Like, that's just not what I do. I'm a relationship guy and I try to go deep, but this has created a unique opportunity, the NAR settlement, to go deeper with people who I previously didn't have the opportunity to do that with, which is kind of cool. And really the problem that agents are facing right now is this. All of the brokers in the US for the last 10 years have taught probably more than that, I don't even know how long, 50 years, have been teaching buyers agents to articulate their value prop as this: it's free to use me. And so the problem they now have to solve is, how do they express a value where previously the whole value was, it's free to use me? And so agents need to now address what they could previously ignore through that. So this is what we've been talking about in these trainings, like how to actually provide solutions to that. But the topic today that Dave asked me to talk about specifically is the pre-approval, conversation. And clients there's like 3 areas that we participate with clients and agents as they're working with clients. There's things that clients know, there's things that clients don't know, and then there's things that clients don't know that they don't know. And that is really the problem that we're dealing with the NAR settlement. They know just enough to know that there's a problem, but they don't necessarily know the productization of the solution. Now, Dan demonstrated a couple of those options with the Edge presentation. I also use an Edge presentation to do a very similar layout of options like that. But let me tell you guys a story that I think is helpful. Let's say that you had a problem where you injured your knee. I'm a tennis player. Say I injured my knee playing tennis, and I go to my doctor and I say, hey, I have a problem with my knee. And he looks at it and he's like, yeah, MRI looks good. I think you're all set. Let's get you to a neurologist. And then I go to the neurologist. Neurologist checks me out. He says, yeah, your nerves are good. Like, everything looks in good order. I'm not sure if it's really a nerve problem. Let's get you over to an orthopedic. He looks at it and says, yeah, everything's good. I don't really know what the problem is. But meanwhile, I'm having this issue where pain shoots down my leg. I fall over and I'm like laid out for 5 minutes at a time. And this is ongoing for weeks, right? So finally, I go back to my PCP and he says, hey, why don't you go talk to a psychiatrist? Like maybe it's in your head. And I go to the psychiatrist and he does an evaluation. He's like, yeah, dude, I think you're good. I don't really know what your problem is. And then like a week later, I'm with my family at the park. And I have an episode where nerve pain shoots down my leg. I fall over. I'm holding my leg in pain. And all of a sudden, this like homeless guy hobbles out from behind the bushes. And he looks at me and says, oh, is that thing where you have that pain in your knee that shoots down your leg and it debilitates you for 5 minutes and then it just kind of passes and like no one can figure out what it is? In that moment, that guy has all of the authority in the room, purely because he can articulate what I'm feeling. And what I've kind of discovered in this latest season, and really my whole business is based on this, is when you're able to articulate the problem and what the consumer is feeling in a way that they can't quite express themselves, or even in a better manner than they can express themselves, you automatically get authority. And so authority is in articulation. And Dan talked about the doctor. Articulation is what makes you the prescriber. And the prescription medication is what brings relief, and the relief removes the problem, and removing the problem brings certainty. And the truth is, what a loan officer sells now and has always sold is certainty. One of my good friends, before I was friends with him in 2020, he's a good friend now. He used the bank to do a refi. And what he told me was he referred 8 people to that bank, not because they had the lowest rate, because it was the first loan officer that ever got closing costs correct. In other words, he had certainty of what to expect. And that was a higher value system for him than anything else. So now, as this relates to like the buyer pre-approval conversation, like I told you up front, I'm a simple creature. There's not a huge change to what I'm doing now as compared to what I was doing before this NAR settlement. But here's what it comes down to. I always do a reverse buyer consultation. Like I'm not a guy who's going to dump you into an online portal first. I'm going to talk to you on the phone first and have a human conversation. I feel like that is a warmer input for you as a client, and it's going to set me up to understand your objectives better. But one of the things I learned about creating authority, prescribing a problem, and being able to offer solutions was that asking excellent questions was always the basis by which I could gather the proper information to do that. And so that upfront call, before I send you to this, fill out my application and we'll call you with options, like, I don't want to be treated that way. I don't think it's warm. I think it's cold. I want to talk to the customer up front. Oh, you're selling a house. You want to buy a house first, then sell later, and you want to move your equity over. Well, cool. You need a recast. Like I can prescribe their problem by asking great questions before we even start the approval application. And so I always do it that way, right? I want to understand their primary objectives. And here are the 2 objectives that have been non-negotiable for 6 years plus in our business. We can never release a pre-approval where yes, and of course, all docs. Actually, Dan's talking about something different, but yes, all docs on these files. But we can never release a pre-approval where we don't understand 2 things that are both clear for us and articulated in the file system, which is, hey, what is the borrower's comfort payment? In other words, James, I want to buy a home and I need my payment to be at or below X. And what is their comfort cash objective? James, I want to buy a home around 300,000. I want to have my cash not to exceed 45K, and I need to be around 2,500 or less. Awesome. If I know those things, I can then do my job, which is to structure the deal according to that. And so we're using Coach in the way that Dan demonstrated. And I know we're late on time, so I'm not going to show you that presentation, but it's very similar. There are 5 or 6 different ways that commission can be handled. And when you can articulate to a person more clearly what they're feeling about the anxiety of how will I pay for the commission, and you can provide solutions that align with the financial objectives that they have, you automatically become the solutions provider. And the solutions providers are the ones who always get paid. Because I think it was Dan Keller that said this, there's order takers and solutions providers, and we want to be the solution provider. And so that's really what we're focusing on, is basically just, hey, how can we articulate with clarity what the options are? We're leveraging that with our agent partners to give them the confidence. We're leveraging that with clients to give them an awareness that, hey, not only do we have solutions, but we're nimble. If the appraisal comes in short, we have a backup plan. If you need to finance something, we have a backup plan, right? One of the things about being one of the top purchase lenders in Connecticut is I see more executed contracts than a lot of my competitors. So I know what terms are winning in the marketplace earlier than many of my competitors. And one of the things we can see is that like right now, people are waiving contingencies. We're educating consumers that the commission is just another contingency in the contract that's to be leveraged. So if you want to write an aggressive offer, you might consider waiving your inspection. Well, cool. Another term that you might consider is picking up the commission instead of financing it into the loan. So all these options exist, and that's what we're walking people through. The opportunity for the LO is simple. It's bring clarity and certainty to consumers because that's what we sell. Converting new agents, like Dan touched on that. If a person hasn't had a conversation with their agent about a spectrum of solutions, then that leaves an opening for you to actually walk them through that and then convert them to one of your agent partners in many cases. We're providing buyers agents the confidence to sell those solutions and understand them. Again, not enough to present them, but enough to say, my team has all the answers to the questions that you have. Let's get James involved to look at it, or let's get the attorney involved, just like whatever, what you would do with attorney level questions, things like that. And so there's this great need right now for excellent loan officers that can just purely articulate this, because here's what your competitors are saying. Hey, we'll figure that out. Yeah, we'll figure that out. Don't worry about it. When that comes in, like when at time of offer, we'll figure that out. And so when you're in front of that, because we're talking about pre-approval conversion, right? That's what we're talking about. When you're way on the front side of that, and your answer is, no, we won't figure that out. We will figure that out. But here's the 5 or 6 ways that we could figure it out. And by the way, I got a tool belt way bigger than my competitors, and I'm going to pull the right tool out for whatever we need. And we're going to use that tool to solve your problem. You're going to extend that confidence. You're going to articulate that solution. You're going to allow yourself to become the prescriber and get all that authority to actually win those pre-approvals. One interesting thing that somebody breezed on this earlier, as it relates to listing agents, we lenders have had a tremendous amount of practice articulating our value proposition for a long time. One of the classic things we get is, hey, James, your closing costs are $4,000 or $5,000 higher. I'm going to go with this other bank. And my response is always, hey, can we look at the loan estimate together? And when we do, what do we typically discover? That the local bank from Idaho doesn't disclose the seller side adjustments in Connecticut, which is 6 months of taxes to be paid upfront back to the seller because they're not collected in arrears. And all of a sudden, I go from being $4,000 more expensive to $1,000 less expensive, right? We've dealt with this for years. Listing agents are coming to me saying, James, I'm so nervous about what to do with these discount brokers coming out and saying they're going to list the house for 1%. And my response to them is, that's the best opportunity you could possibly have, because you get to go and offer certainty. And they are not offering certainty. What they're saying is, hey, I'll sell it for 1 and we'll just figure out what the buyers come in with asking. So what if the buyer asks for 5? Now you're going to sell it for 6? What if that's the only offer you get? Are you going to sell it for 6 instead of 5? You can go in and position clarity and certainty, and that will give you so much more authority than your competitors. So happy to dialogue with you, Phil. I don't have any like magic script. It's really just like, it's honestly as simple as, let's understand what people want. Let's understand what their objectives are. And then let's do what we do. Let's structure that thing to work the way that you need it.
And I'm going to try and take everything you've shared here, and I'm scribbling a page of notes here in front of me, because again, I note the passion. I note that there is a genuine care about trying to help the people. It's not I've got the perfect product. It's that I can know the nuances of what exists inside that problem. There's 3 things that I take from this that I think everybody can do something with, knowing that we're towards the back end of our session. One is to never forget that prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. It's true in the medical industry. It's true in the real estate business too. Prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. 2, you said it with so much passion, but I'm going to try and synthesize it, is that if you can show somebody you understand their problem, they'll trust you with the solution. You try sell somebody in your solution, they'll say that's not the problem. Right? So if you can be very good at understanding the puzzles that are existing inside the worlds of the people you're looking to help, you're going to have an edge over everybody else. Once you know the puzzles that people are trying to solve, you can start to build a catalog of statements that show people that you know them. And I'm going to try and give a little structure for this, if this is helpful. Did you see my screen just split in half? James, you seeing that?
Yep.
Okay, here's a structure you can apply to all of this. Let me just see if my screen is working the way I need it to. And there's 4 parts to this. Part 1 is going to be, you're going to start statements with the words, well, you know how. And I'm going to say most, many, or some people. And then I'm going to find myself in a situation, right, where where I'm going to show somebody I understand the context. Well, you know how many people think that the only thing that matters in a loan is the rate, right? I'm just setting up a context. Well, you know how there's a lot of confusion across mass market right now about how we should treat buyer's agents.
Right.
Well, you know how many people don't understand the difference between a pre-approval and a conditional offer. Like whatever I want to set up as a concept, I can now put as a, well, you know how most people, many people, some people. And I'm going to create this problem face that says I understand the context. Behind that, I'm going to add some fuel to that, which is simply a which means that. And remember, you're selling confidence. What is the answer to the which means that? It almost concludes with a, so they don't know who to trust. You see, whatever we put out there. Well, you know how many people are confused right now by boom, 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 which means that they've got this and this and this and this and this, and the result is they don't know how to trust, right? There's a setup. What you then do is part 3 is you say, I help X achieve Y. With all our years and experience is that we have the tools in our tool belt to be able to help people that meet this description overcome these kind of puzzles. Part 4 is which means that, which is simply the reverse of that one. Which means that what they do have is they do have the knowledge and information they need. They do have access to somebody who can provide them accurate information, and they have a trusted partner to hold their hand through the process.
Like, if people are not screenshotting this, they're totally missing it. It's as simple as well, you know how many people think that it's free to use a buyer's agent? What if I told you that that was never actually true? What if I told you you've been financing $7,500 on a $300,000 purchase for the last 50 years? What if I told you that that costs you $17,000 and change over the life of your loan instead of $7,500? That means nobody's ever given you options and solutions. Like, this is such a good framework. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Which means that you've often been overpaying for incompetent agents.
100%. You were never given the option to pay less.
Right.
Now you can pay cash if you don't want to finance it at 6.625.
Right. Well, what I do is I help you access a full suite of products and make professional recommendations to the right agent to fit the right circumstances, which means that you have full knowledge and understanding about every dime that you're paying in the transaction. So you can never pay more for something that you don't need to, resulting in you being able to have confidence that you got not just the best possible home, but the best possible finance on that home too. There isn't an area where that little 4-part framework can't help. And it just became so relevant to what you were saying. I'm like, boom, I hope that was worth the time of admission to come. That if you know people and problems, you can write 100. Well, you know how most people, some people, many people statements, which means that. Well, what I do is I help those people to achieve blank, which means that what they get is blank. And you should be writing like 100, 1,000 reps of these for every situation you come into on repeat. Just like your story. Well, you know how what you're feeling right now is you're feeling a pain at this point here and here, which means that you're finding it difficult to be able to do this, this, and this, and this. Well, what I do is I help people overcome that pain by doing this, this, and this, and this, which means that what they have is access to this, this, and this. It helps on the my legs hurting story too.
I love that framework. I just took a picture of that. That's awesome.
You're very welcome to it. You're very welcome. This is what I love doing, is creating complex and trying to reverse engineer the how so other people can do more of what it is that you're doing with such passion and vigor. See if I can distill it down into something that people can get reps in. Because this is all you're doing.
Totally. Exactly.
So guys, I mean, I just can't tell you, and James said it, if you're not taking a screenshot of this, you're crazy. And then if you're not taking a screenshot of this, by the way, did I freeze up, Todd?
You froze up.
Did I freeze up?
Yes, you've been perfect all day, Dave, but you were freezing up.
Hopefully. Well, if I'm freezing up, you go ahead and start the close, and I'll be back.
So I just love that framework, Phil. I mean, I've told y'all multiple times today that, that the genius of Phil is his ability to break down. He said it, right? We got to understand what the concerns and questions that people have, and then we need to figure out, how to show them the solutions that we have. And that was a great framework and just one of many examples that I've learned from you on how to articulate it. So for, those of you who've hung around to the end, you just got some additional gold that unfortunately others have missed out on. And so I think it's just, I'm not surprised that we're going almost 3 hours. Last year, we went over 3 hours and we had double the speakers, but I think that we had this great opportunity today to dig in. Phil, is there anything that we didn't discuss around the mortgage or real estate, conversations that you thought we were going to talk about today?
I mean, this is a never-ending topic, so we can keep people here for the rest of the time. I think if I was to summarize anything on about the current situation from a conversationalist point of view, is I would know a lot less for sure. That's what I would be showing up with right now, is to know a lot less for sure. Smarter questions, fewer answers, less jumping to conclusions about the uniqueness of how somebody's doing things, less trying to predict the future and saying, here's exactly how it's going to work. We're going to enter into one of the bumpiest rides in the world of real estate, certainly for a decade, because the consumer is misinformed. That's the issue. We have a misinformed consumer, and we have a lot of people out there that are selling fast answers. And whether this is coaching organizations, whether this is the same LOs that were saying, marry the house and date the rate, like all these lazy one-liners are going to be coming out around the NAR stuff as well. Don't fall into it. Care about people, love on people, understand problems properly before you start jumping to solutions, and show the world what professional loan origination looks like. And that would be my goal over the next 12 months, is that the consumer understands, there's people that can write loans, and then there's professional LOs, and the consumer understands the difference.
100% right.
If you look at what happened with like the taxi cab industry, the mini cab industry, when Uber showed up, is there was a big period of time where mini cabs were like, it's not fair, these people are stealing our business, etc. We're all going to get paid less. This is a disaster. But what else happened was an upsurgence in awareness to ways in which you could travel in a motor vehicle that were different. I mean, own up even simply to this in the chat. How many of you now regularly travel in a black car as a result of services like Uber Black that would have never dreamed of hiring a limo in their past? That process would have been too foreign to them, right? And it's access to premium levels of service that then normalizes premium levels of service once the consumer understands how to access premium levels of service and why premium is worth the premium. That's the job to educate over this period of time. And if any of you are struggling to articulate your value proposition and you're not sure how to be able to package it into copy and package it into statements, the greatest copywriters for your business are called your customers. So I'd go back through your past reviews and I'd see what people have written about you. I'd also probably do telephone surveys with as many of your past clients as you possibly can and as many of your realtor partners as you possibly can, and I'd ask them these two questions. Question one would be, what 3 things did you like best about working with us? What 3 things did you like best about working with us? Not what are some of the things or what was your number 1 thing, what 3 things? When you ask somebody what 3 things, you get a very sequenced list. The first thing they tell you is the first thing they could think of. Because you gave them 3 shots, it goes into head and comes out of mouth, no filter. The second thing they tell you is almost certainly their most important thing, the thing they value about your service the most. And the third thing they tell you is their favorite nice to have. I mean, even think about it like a product like Trust Engine. If I was to say to you what 3 things you like best about Trust Engine, into head, out of mouth, you're then going to give the money shot for what it delivers to you inside your world, and then you're going to share a feature that you think is kind of cute. It earns you the right to ask the second question. If there was one thing you could change about us, what would that one thing be? Then I'll tell you the truth. If you learn what 3 things every client you've worked with in the past like best about your service, and the one thing they'd change if they were given the choice, what can you do to shape your future value proposition just from those ingredients alone? 50 to 100 samples on those 2 questions well answered, you just built a pantry of ingredients to be able to rewrite the narrative for how you can be more valuable to your future customers. So I'd be using what's happening right now to have dozens and dozens of more conversations. And yeah, Melanie, you might find like They love everything about you, but those freaking drip emails that come out from your head office, make them stop. Or you might find that there's something you're doing because you think it's helpful, and people are like, just stop it. Stop it.
Hey, Doug. Oops. Hold on. Okay. Good. I'm listening to this Script-a-Palooza thing. It's actually pretty interesting.
We're also
listening to a real life testimonial.
We're also listening to you, Doug. Hey, Doug, we're all on the phone with you.
Yeah,
right
hold
now.
on.
That's awesome.
Please.
We could have got a
Hey, everybody, mute yourself, please.
Kind of sucks. That's 3 hours of my life I can't get back.
Yeah. So,
Does this guy ever stop talking?
Let's everybody make sure you're muted. We are, and by the way, my computer, I don't know if it overheated or what, but we had a incredibly perfect time. So this has been perfect. Hey, Todd, have you got a chance to make sure everybody knows about Win by Noon and covered that in detail?
No, you know what? I'll just make it. I'll make it really quick. It's been something I've been so passionate about, right? Is helping people reach their potential, whatever they believe it to be. And, the whole idea of the philosophy of prioritizing what's most important first thing before you get distracted by everything else. You heard even Denise say that sometimes she doesn't get everything done, and that just does happen. And so really it's the philosophy, and it's the whole idea that we've got a planner for both loan officers and real estate agents, as well as a social media version, thanks to Deborah Bird. I would just go to winbynoon.com. I won't give you a big pitch on it because I'm going to give you a free trial. Just go to winbynoon.com and use the code WBN for winbynoon24. And it'll just do a monthly subscription. It'll make it free to get, and you can check it out. But it's what I found has been a great tool to help people record their activities, track their results, and most importantly, be laser focused on what's most important for the day so you can get in there and get it done. So
hey, wait, I gotta throw my thoughts in there, guys. So you've learned a lot of tactics, strategies, concepts, but I've interviewed thousands of the most successful mortgage professionals, and they have a few things in common. One, they're serious about winning, but they win by noon. Now, when it comes to winning by 7 a.m., that's the time I win by, but I do know different elite mortgage advisors that win by 8, win by 9. I don't think you can win your morning, whatever that morning is, to have your head space right. You can't win by noon if you're not winning by 9. Denise Donahue talked about her 1 hour power hour. I guarantee she's not doing that 1 hour power hour by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She's getting that 1 hour power hour for noon. So, the planners that Todd has for both mortgage professionals and real estate professionals are incredible. It's worth a year of subscription just to have the planner. But the concept of winning by noon, it's if you're going to make the most of this month, this quarter, and according to Tom Ferry, by Q1 of next year, this thing will have played out. We'll kind of know where the dust settles, and you want to be on the dust side of the dust settles that wins. So this will be uploaded into our YouTube channel by the end of the day because it's such a long video. It might take a few hours to get up there, but I saw people asking, so check that out. Phil Jones, dude, cannot thank you enough for dedicating so much time to the value you brought today. Let's use the reactions and give Phil a big, virtual standing ovation. Hopefully he'll get a lot of hearts and a lot of love. Appreciate you, brother. Anything you want to make sure we close out today, knowing where we're at in time, anything you want to make sure we close out on, Mr. Phil Jones?
Before you get to your next task, go for a walk, grab a moment, do something from a period of reflection, and ask yourself on today's webinar, what 3 things are you going to do differently as a result of the time that you've invested in yourself and your business as a result of this? Get granular. Make some commitments and promises to yourself today that things are going to be different in your future as a result of you investing this time. Get crystal clear on 3 things, get them documented, and then go share them with somebody you care about so you've got some inbuilt accountability to go make it happen, whether that's your coach, whether that's your business partner, whether that's dropping it into the mortgage coach community or one of the other communities that overlap. Create some accountability that says, this was worth it, here's why, here's what I'm going to go do differently, and then ignore the rest until you've made progress on those 3 things.
And Todd, thank you so much for you and the Win by Noon crew that put this on. Kristen Messerly, thank you for everything you do at First Home IQ and now, the modern Mortgage IQ, a new platform. Todd, closing thoughts, brother. Bring us home.
Here we go. I didn't think we'd hit 3 hours again this year, and look at we just about did, and that's really just a testament to our 6 amazing panelists and to you, Phil, and the advice that you gave. And so, as always, super grateful for all of you and what you provided, but also super grateful for those of you who put in the energy, stayed here for this time, or are watching this on video. We're super grateful for you. We'll make sure that you get a email as someone who registered by the end of business tomorrow. It'll have a link to the recordings. It'll be both in the Win by Noon and the Trust Engine YouTube channels. Then we'll also get you a link to all the different things that we discussed in here with any discount codes, because we want to have you have access to all of those great things, and look forward, Phil, to watching you on your unique value proposition role play webinar. And as always, Dave, it's just a journey and a pleasure to be alongside of you and get to do what we do in our community.
All right. And hopefully, you are all mortgage coaches. You're delivering the total cost analysis point of sale for anyone that wants to be incredibly, not just predictive with data, but predictive with advice. Check out Trust Engine. If you're an individual loan officer, forward that link to your manager. We want to get you on the team. So make sure you go through and make an informed decision about what we do and how we do it. Take care, everybody. This is a wrap.
All right. Have a great one.